Good. Good evening. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, August 31st. I'm still on the 5 o'clock meeting, I'm sorry. There we go.
I'll call the roll. Chair Baumel.
Thank you, here.
Vice Chair Forbes.
Present.
Board Member Bravo.
Here.
Board Member Lecour.
Yes, I'm here.
Board Member Edery.
Here.
Board Member Szafranski.
Here.
And Board Member Bales. You have a quorum.
Thank you. First thing that we would like to do is welcome everybody to the meeting and bring in our esteemed Commissioner, Fred Landsman.
Welcome, members of the Planning and Zoning Board. Thank you again for your service to the town of Surfside, our residents, tourists, and businesses. As with each of our meetings, stay true to the mandate and responsibilities you have as members of this board. Utilize the extraordinary town staff available to you, our town manager, town attorneys, town planners, building department, and others. There may be speakers on an application or site plan review. Please listen to their comments, but if you have any questions, please ask the town staff present here today. I have confidence in this board. Thank you.
Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion? June 29th minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the June 29th minutes.
Second.
Who seconded the motion? Me. Edery? Board Member Edery?
Yes.
Board Member Bravo?
Yes.
Board Member Lecour?
Yes.
Vice Chair Forbes?
Yes.
Chair Baumel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Before we begin our morning applications, our attorney, Tony Riccio.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Tonight's regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board is an in-person meeting as set forth in the Town Code. Applications in Section 4 of this evening's meeting agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. Following the presentations by staff and the applicant, the board can ask questions and take public comment. Following public comment, the board can ask any additional questions they have and deliberate on the resolution. The quasi-judicial procedures require this board to consider the evidence presented to it and base their decision on the applicable law and primarily on the evidence presented, whether by the applicant, staff, or members of the public. In the case of items 4A, 4B, and 4C, the applicable law includes the standards for issuance of design review approval under Section 90-19 of the Town Code, as well as the design guidelines. In the case of item 4D, which is for site plan approval, as well as design review, the applicable criteria is set forth in Section 90-20 of the Code and the design guidelines. The evidence considered must be substantial, competent evidence. This means testimony or other evidence based on personal observation or relevant expert testimony that a reasonable mind would accept as adequate to support a conclusion. It is not a popularity contest. It cannot be based solely on non-expert opinions, no matter how fervent those opinions might be. Everyone who seeks to speak on an item will be given an opportunity to speak. If you intend to provide testimony as to any of the applications considered tonight, you'll be sworn in before your testimony is taken. Please note, if you speak, you may be subject to cross-examination. If you refuse either to be cross-examined or to be sworn, your testimony will be considered in that context and given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request the board to direct questions on their behalf to either staff or the applicant. At this time, anyone who wishes to speak should be sworn in. I would ask that you please stand if you intend to speak and follow Madam Clerk as she administers the oath.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And Madam Clerk, can you confirm the compliance with the advertising notice requirements?
Confirmed.
Thank you. Madam Chair and board members, have any of you had any ex parte communications with the applicant or any member of the public, either for or against any of the applications to be heard tonight? If so, please state for the record who the communication was with, the nature of the communication, and if they spoke on behalf of anyone, who they spoke on behalf of. Thank you.
I can start. 8777 Collins, I spoke with some of the people who will be presenting. There's a few. Do I need to name them?
Yes, please. Please, do you have them? Or can you identify them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yes.
Darren, and James.
Thank you.
I also had the same conversation with 8777 Collins, and also had a conversation with George Kouslis regarding 88th Street for the same property.
Okay, thank you.
Same situation here, 8777. I had a conversation with Jeff James for this project, and that's about it.
8777 Collins, I spoke with George Kouslis.
You spoke with both of them, you're saying, or with George Kouslis specifically? I'm sorry.
I only spoke with George Kouslis.
Okay, understood. Was he speaking on behalf of 8777?
No,
Okay, he was
as a
not.
member of the public.
Understood. Just clarified.
I need to amend my statement also with George Kouslis, yes.
Got it.
8777 Collins. I did a brief conversation over the phone, but nothing, no meeting. I forgot, I think it was with James, but I don't remember specifically.
With James of
I think.
8777
Yeah.
Collins. Got it.
Memorable.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Wait,
Oh.
one more.
Oh, one.
I had a conversation with Judith and staff.
That's
fine.
Thank you for clarifying, but you're okay there. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
good.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, before we start, I'd like to make a motion to move 4D ahead of 4A, and then make 4D 4A, and then move everything down one.
I second.
Board Member Bravo,
Yes.
Board Member Ederai,
Yes.
Board Member Lecour,
Yes,
Vice Chair Forbes,
Yes.
Chair Baumel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Well, now that I've gotten everybody askew, actually not me, but all of us, we will be starting with 8777 Collins. Town planners.
Yes, good evening, Judith Frankel, Town Planner. So first I'm going to give you a little bit of background about the history of the site, and then Mr. Keller of Marlin Engineering is going to go over the design review characteristics and the zoning characteristics and the staff recommendation for the site. We also have our building official, Jim McGinnis here, who's going to go over some additional comments from him. And then we're going to hear from the applicant. Applicant has a presentation, and then public comment, and then we're here for your questions, comments as they arise. Okay. 8777 Collins Avenue. The applicant has applied for a site plan review for a new 12-story multifamily building at this address. The site was the location of Champlain Towers South, which tragically collapsed on June 24th, 2021, leaving 98 people dead, many injured, many homeless, and a devastated community. A court-appointed receiver conducted the sale of the property to quickly deliver funds to the collapse survivors and the families of the deceased. The court directed the sale of the property without any condition for a memorial on site. The town commission later directed the town manager to pursue a location of a memorial park on 88th Street, which is directly adjacent to the site we're going to review. In about mid-2022, DMAC Properties took ownership of the site. Their team of architects, construction professionals, and developers initially met with the town beginning in November of 2022. Then in May of 2023, town staff formally met with the applicant for a pre-application meeting, which is standard in this type of development, in order to review their proposal. In June of 2023, the applicant submitted 2 site plan proposals. The first, option A, this proposal utilized the average side setback option in the code, and we'll get into the code a little bit later in the presentation, but that's the main difference between option A and option B, is the side setback option they chose from our zoning code. That plan relied on the south side of the property being considered a secondary frontage. 87th Terrace is no longer a street. Only a 10-foot wide pedestrian easement, and our zoning code would have needed to be amended to change the definition for secondary frontage to accommodate that proposal. Option B that was submitted, the proposal utilized the incline side setback, again, which you'll hear more about that later in the presentation, which is the tiered, or people refer to as the wedding cake option in the town code. Staff found that that proposal complied with the zoning code. The site plan you are reviewing tonight is a revised version of that option B that was presented that meets the zoning code. Town staff review of any development application includes consideration of surrounding and existing site conditions. In this case, the memorial park to be located on 88th Street was a major consideration. And I have a brief overview of the conditions there and of where the town is with the memorial, so that the board can be as informed as possible to the conditions. So just give me a second to bring that up. Okay. So the town commission issued a resolution directing the manager together with the staff to close 88th Street east of Collins Avenue to vehicular traffic for the purpose of a memorial park and pedestrian plaza. In the same resolution, as is necessary, it states, the closure of any portion of 88th Street to vehicular traffic is subject to the maintenance of emergency or government vehicular access and any access required to reach the property north and south of the street ends. And then in section 3, we talk about the hiring of design professionals. Okay, so I'm sure you all know where 88th Street is located, but just as a refresher, 88th Street from Collins Avenue to the Beach Hard Pack will be redeveloped. A portion of 88th Street closest to Collins Avenue must remain accessible to Miami-Dade Fire Rescue and other emergency vehicles. This area will be treated with new hardscape and landscape as part of the project. The majority of 88th Street will be a linear park with lush landscaping, seating, and memorial art installation. So that's the location. This is a diagram giving you an idea of what the town intends to do with 88th Street. So the portion closest to Collins Avenue, we intend is a gateway section, which perhaps may fulfill the plaza section of the resolution. So the entry would include complete re-landscaping, hardscape, general street improvements, but while still allowing for emergency vehicle access, fire trucks specifically, as those are the largest vehicles, access to the adjacent properties, both the site we're reviewing tonight and the blue-green Solara to the north, and provide a buffer between Collins Avenue and the actual memorial park. So the area I've highlighted in green would be the memorial park section of 88th Street. There, I'm going to go over the RFQ in a minute, space for a memorial artwork, We don't know exactly what that's going to look like, maybe sculptural, maybe a wall of names or information, landscaping, hardscape, pathways, seating, lighting, signage. Okay, so this is a Google Maps image of what the street looks like now. In the top image, you can see the street already narrows there before you get to the sand, before you reach the hard pack. The below image, which you're going to see more images of the site plan of the project later, you can see in the orange extends to the edge of their loading dock. And then the green is the remainder. Okay. And in terms of a town status, the manager, along with staff, has been pursuing the Memorial Park plans with state, county, and local agencies to identify constraints and resources. There is grant money that's been provided by the state, money that's been promised from the county. The town manager has been working directly with FDOT on the closure of the street, along with other entities. In February of this year, the Memorial Committee met to identify the direction of the memorial concepts and to review the process moving forward to choosing a design firm. In June, the town issued a request for qualifications, an RFQ, to help identify firms that would be qualified to do the work that we're looking for. That process has closed. 2 firms were identified through that, and they're moving to the RFP, request for proposals process. We expect by end of October 2023 that we'll have a design firm chosen, and that will be presented to the town commission in November. We're anticipating a 12-month design, development, permitting schedule, and then for construction to begin following that. That's just to give you an idea of the town's process and vision for the memorial. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Keller of Marlin Engineering, our consulting town planner. As I said, he's going to review the development review criteria, zoning characteristics, and staff disposition on the site. After Mr. Keller, we have Mr. McGinnis, town building official, to provide you with his comments about the proposal as well.
Thank you. Mr. Walter Keller. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good evening. It's nice to be here with the board tonight. My report's going to be a little bit on the long side, and so I apologize to start with. There's specific things that we need to look at when we look at this application, and so that adds a little depth to it. Plus, it is a little bit of a complicated site the way it's developed. The site plan for this application envisions 2 12-story buildings with an atrium on the ground level, providing up to 52 residential dwelling units. Subject to Florida Department of Transportation approval, passenger vehicle and primary pedestrian site access will be from Collins Avenue. An internal driveway connects with Collins Avenue to a passenger and vehicle drop-off area. The internal driveway then connects to 2 underground parking levels with 148 parking spaces. The setback option utilized for this site plan is the inclined side setback. And what that says on the south part of the property, that there's a 10-foot setback, and then after 30 feet, for every 3 feet that the plan goes up in height, the setback has to move in 1 foot. The setback for Collins Avenue is at 40 feet, and the setback from 88th Street is 20 feet. The setback on the east from the town bulkhead line is 20 feet. The roof level above 12 includes residential amenities, pool and cabanas, private amenities, and open terraces. The building height, as measured from the wave crest, is 120 feet. The project rooftop is 20 feet in height, and in the table that was included in my report to you, There are different characteristics explained in there. The ground level includes a central atrium, which connects the two portions of the buildings with a reception area and lobby. The south building includes resident amenities, a kids club, an indoor pool, and a private cabana, which connects to the dwelling unit above. On the north side building, it includes mailroom, valet, MEP, FPL, main electrical, a loading dock which has access from 88th Street, and a private cabana which connects to the dwelling unit above. The area east of the town's bulkhead line is primarily a private recreation area with a pool, more a pond, it's not really a pool, walkways, landscaping, in the easternmost portion including the hardpack easement in the dune area. Level 2 includes a residence lounge, kitchen, resident amenities, MEP space, 2 dwelling units in the south portion of the building, and 1 dwelling unit in the north portion of the building. Elevator banks are located on both buildings, portions of the buildings. Levels 3 through 6 have 6 residential dwelling units on each floor with 4 large and 2 smaller central dwelling units. It's possible an owner may combine a larger unit with an adjacent smaller unit, which would lower the number of units in the building. The eastern 2 units on the 5th and 6th floors are also increased in size by utilizing a building, connecting the building separation on the east side. Level 7 has 5 residential dwelling units. Levels 8 through 12 provide 4 residential dwelling units. The eastern 2 units, again, on level 12, have access to the private pool cabanas on the roof level above. The building construction utilizes architectural design treatments on the balconies, which incorporates glass fiber reinforced concrete, matching the color of the beach sand on the town's beach. Additionally, the inclined setback on the south property line increases the 10-foot setback 1 foot for every 3 feet above 30 feet. At level 4, the setback, instead of being 10 feet, is actually 11 feet 1 1/4 inches. And this continues to increase, so that at level 12, the setback is actually 39 feet 11 1/2 inches. The landscape plan has a high percentage of Florida-friendly species. 91% of the 139 trees are Florida-friendly, and 56 of the palms are Florida-friendly. The Collins Avenue scheme includes 11 mahogany trees, 37 Simpson stopper trees. The landscape theme for 88th Street is 11 green, myelin, coconut palms. The south property line, where there's a 10-foot setback, has 23 coconut palms and 39 Simpson stopper trees. A wide variety of trees and palms are proposed for the private recreation area. The pervious area for the site plan is primarily provided by the private recreational area and also along Collins Avenue, since the project has underground parking. The pervious area is 28.9%, which exceeds the minimum, which is 20%. Preliminary comments were provided to the applicant on August 5th. Many of the main elements of the site plan were found by staff to be satisfactory. This included the height, setbacks, balcony depth, and pervious area. 3 areas, however, required further analysis and modifications were identified. One was the site access. We needed additional information on how the drop-off and the traffic flow would work along Collins Avenue. Second, the landscape. Needed a 10-foot landscape buffer along Collins Avenue, which wasn't provided, and also along 88th Street. Finally, there was a stairwell exit coming out of the garage that, in the northeast part of the property, that exited right on the property line on 88th Street, and we wanted to have that removed from the setback area. The town's development review group reviewed the site plan application on August 9th, 2023. A detailed presentation was made by James Galvin, a DMAC Development Vice President and Project Manager. The DRG only reviewed the plan set in utilizing the incline side setback. At the DRG meeting Mr. Galvin indicated the project team was working to address the staff concerns identified in the August 5th, 2023 memo, and a revised set of plans would be provided shortly. Town staff was in agreement at the ERG that the plan's impacts were adequately considered and that the project should proceed to the Planning and Zoning Board for review. The applicant submitted a revised site plan package on August 23rd, 2023, which wasn't too long ago. The revised package addressed all areas of concern that were addressed in the earlier memo from staff and responded to questions raised in the meeting. The applicant has applied for site plan review, and development review criteria for this type of project is addressed in section 90-20, 2A of the zoning code. So I'm going to go through and address each one of these issues and let you know how staff assess those. One, the development as proposed conforms to the comprehensive plan and the zoning code. Staff finds the project conforms to the town comprehensive plan and that the development of 52 dwelling units is less than the allowable density provided in the comprehensive plan. It's also consistent with the allowable uses, development policies, goals, and objectives of the comprehensive plan. Staff also finds the project generally complies with the zoning code since the building complies with the town height requirements, setback requirements, pervious area requirements, and other zoning regulations. Second, the development as proposed will have a favorable or unfavorable impact on the environment and natural resources, including a consideration of the means and estimated costs necessary to minimize the adverse impacts, if any. The project has minimal impacts on the environment and natural resources. The significant reduction in dwelling units from the former development, from 137 dwelling units to 52 dwelling units, will lessen some of the impact associated with the building occupants. There are no existing natural native habitats or wildlife conditions that have to be addressed. The developer is proposing to design the project to be LEED Silver certifiable and use best efforts to obtain LEED Silver or its equivalent certification within 12 months of issuance of the certificate of occupancy and maintain such certification thereafter. The use of LEED or an equivalent process in the construction of the building will have lessened the environmental impact and assist in sustainability goals. The development as proposed will have a favorable or unfavorable impact on the economy of the town of Surfside. The development of the new building will generate a significant increase to the town's tax base and provide new residents and seasonal clientele for the town's businesses, shops, and restaurants. The development as proposed will efficiently use or unduly burden water, sewer, solid waste disposal, education, recreation, and other necessary public facilities which have been constructed or planned or budgeted for construction in the area. The significant reduction in dwelling units from the former development, again 137 units to 52, will lessen the water, sewer, solid waste, and public educational impacts. The developer is also participating in assisting in the town's new water main and the oceanside dune system. Solid waste pickup will be from the loading zone via 88th Street. The development as proposed will efficiently use or unduly burden or affect public transportation facilities, including mass transit, public streets, and roads, which have been planned or budgeted for the construction in the area, and if the development is or will be accessible by private or public roads or streets. Impacts to the public roadway facilities and transportation are decreased from the former development due to the decrease in residential units and the corresponding decrease in projected vehicles. Further, the proposed development divides passenger vehicle access and loading access. Passenger vehicle access is accommodated with the two proposed Collins Avenue driveway curb cuts, subject to Florida Department of Transportation approvals. The internal driveway provides for passenger and vehicle drop-off for valet parking. The internal driveway connects to two underground parking levels. The loading zone has been located to limit impact to the Memorial Park plan for 88th Street while still providing a safe distance from Collins Avenue, subject again to Florida Department of Transportation approval. The development as proposed is consistent with the community character of the immediate neighborhood. In addition to consistency, there must be congruity between the subject development and the neighboring improvements and surrounding, including but not limited to form, spacing, height, setbacks, materials, color, rhythm, and pattern of architectural, aesthetic, interest, or value, as well as any overlays or other development schemes or legislation. The exterior architecture of the project, featuring the design by a world-renowned architect, is compatible with the community character of the beachside portions of Surfside. The use of glass fiber reinforced concrete will provide an innovative curved balcony design which will match Surfside's town beach color. The separation of the north and south portions of the building provide for light and airflow, which allows for the incorporation of the natural elements within the proposed design. In the event of redevelopment, the applicant shall also submit a detailed plan for demolition. The applicant has agreed that the project will be constructed in strict compliance with the town Surfside Ordinance 2022-1720, which is the construction sites ordinance. Given that the applicant and the site plan package comply with the 7 criteria of section 90-22, parentheses A, staff recommends the Planning and Zoning Board approve the forwarding of the site plan package to the Town Commission, subject to the resolution of the following comments prior to the Town Commission hearing. 1, provide a breakdown of residential dwelling unit floor area, balcony area, and back of house area per floor. And something has been recently submitted. It hasn't been reviewed, but something has been submitted on that. Clarify the landscape scheme and the 10-foot setback area on the south property line. Again, something has been submitted relative to that, although I don't know whether it's addressed fully the comment. Clarify the water and sewer connection strategy. Sheet C-300 of the civil engineering plans is based on the state and county records for water and sewer infrastructure within the right-of-way. The town's Public Works Department will work with the applicant to evaluate the existing infrastructure serving the site in order to determine if alternate connections or infrastructure modifications are warranted. The appropriate points of connection for water and sewer lines will be identified to avoid any potential infrastructure conflicts. I believe the applicant submitted something addressing this comment. Additionally, due to the prominent location of the site adjacent to the future Memorial Park at 88th Street and its location as a main entry point to the town of Surfside, it is further recommended that the applicant coordinate the installation and final design of landscaping and hardscape along 88th Street with the town manager to best complement the installation and design of the Memorial Park, and improve the landscape presentation along Collins Avenue to increase the visual impact. The town's building official has also provided comments. I'm going to let the Mr. McGinnis provide those in a minute. Or 2.
His water's only half done.
He's quick. Additional recommended conditions of site plan approval. Secure Florida Department of Transportation approval of the curb cuts on Collins Avenue prior to building permit. Town reserves the right to reevaluate the site plan if the number, location, dimensions, or configuration of curb cuts and driveway are altered based on FDOT review and approval. If any changes result in the operational, traffic, infrastructure, or design impacts that are not considered in the site plan approval, the town manager may require the applicant to seek formal amendment of the site plan to be reviewed by the town commission after public hearing. Applicant to provide hard pack and dune maintenance easement. Applicant to improve resiliency through modifications to the dune system east of the property in coordination with the town. Town reserves the right to provide for other conditions based upon further review. And with that, I will introduce Mr. McGinnis again.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Walter. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Jim McGinnis, your building official floodplain manager. I have the following comments regarding this phase of project review. Number one, the new 8th version of the 2023 Florida Building Codes will become effective on January 1st, 2024. All building permit applications accepted on or after that date will be constructed under the 2023 Florida Building Code. Next, the project shall also be constructed in strict compliance with the Town of Surfside Ordinance Number 2022-1720, codified in Section 14-104 of the Town Code of Ordinances. It's also called the Construction Sites Ordinance. Number 3, I'd like to respectfully direct your attention to sheet BZ-003.00 of the submitted project plans in your agenda packet. You'll see that the buildable area is shown, the southwest corner of that buildable area encroaches into the AE flood zone. That's also known as a special flood hazard area. This encroachment would...
Can you repeat the page number again?
Sure, that would be sheet number B. It's in the architecturals. Z-003.00.
More in the front.
And you can see that the southwest corner of the building is intersected by a flood zone. That encroachment, the way FEMA works is that if a building is crossed by 2 flood zones, the most restrictive flood zone has to apply. As a result, this current encroachment would prohibit construction of the building as currently proposed, including but not limited to the use of underground parking in a wholly residential building. However, FEMA's preliminary maps show this area and the entire structure as entirely in the X zone, and the X zone is not part of the special flood hazard area. We contacted the State of Florida Division of Floodplain Management for an effective date on those maps, and we got the answer to TBD, to be determined. So right now, the maps are in an appeal state. In other words, they give a certain amount of time for property owners to appeal the movement of their properties in and out of flood zones. That period is coming to an end. However, currently it's still shown in a special flood hazard area. So as a result, the applicant has filed what's known as a letter of map revision, LOMR, with FEMA to amend the current map in accordance with the proposed new preliminary maps to match that. And it's very important that in order for the project to be constructed as proposed, that the applicant demonstrate one of 2 things in form and substance that's acceptable to the town. And they are A, FEMA's approval of the letter of map revision filed by the applicant, or B, FEMA's preliminary flood maps become effective, confirming that the proposed structure is indeed entirely in the X zone, thereby permitting the underground parking for the residential building. Sheet B-Z003.00 should therefore be updated and amended and revised consistent with FEMA's adopted maps at the time of building permit application. And those are the end of building and floodplain review comments, and I'm available for questions if you have any.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGinnis.
Thank you.
So that concludes the town staff presentation portion. We're of course here for questions or comments. The applicant is here.
They are.
And they have a presentation as well for you.
Yes, Madam Chair, we decided today would be a good day to be here as part of the applicant. Graham Penn, Bercowdale, Fernandez, Larkin, Tapanes, 200 South Biscayne Boulevard, here tonight representing the applicant, East Oceanside Development, which is owned by DMAC. And first I want to apologize to all the single-family homeowners that are here because this is going to be a long So what I'm going to try to do is give you a quick intro, go over the basics. I'm going to try not to be duplicative of staff's very good presentation, especially Judith. I appreciate the elucidation regarding the Memorial Park, because that's an important part in 88th Street. And then I'm going to turn it over to our architects to take you through the design. So first, let me start with our illustrative team, many of whom are here. I believe we have representatives of both of these. DMAC, of course, Jeff Rossley, Darren O'Regan, James Galvin are here. From Zaha Hadid Architects, Chris Lapine, who's going to give you the exciting part of this presentation. As you will see, if you don't know already, ZHA is a truly world-renowned design architectural group. ODP Architects, we got several of those folks here. There are local architects who make the dream a reality under Florida law. Savino Miller Design Studio, Barry Miller's here, our landscape architect. Our civil engineers, Ocean Engineering. Our coastal engineers are Ocean Consulting. He would kill me, but Carl Peterson is our traffic engineer, and I got his entity wrong. It's KBP Consulting. And finally, last but not least, Cecilia Ward from JC Consulting, who was our planner. And of course, I didn't have on our sheet Ian DeMello, my co-counsel. Lawyers don't get to have their own slides. So as Judith explained, we're here seeking design approval for a low-impact residential use on this site, as well as your positive recommendation of the site plan. We have no objection to the list of staff suggested revisions and clarifications that Mr. Keller noted and during his presentation. As he explained, we have already submitted a lot of that material in response to those comments. So as I said, I'm going to take you through the basics of the project, and then I'm going to turn it over to Chris Lapine to take you through the design. But first, we have to start with this property, which we all know for the worst possible reason. This property is the location of the most tragic event in Surfside's history. The collapse of the Champlain Towers South building in June 2021 not only cost 98 people their lives, it shattered the lives of many more, especially the surviving families of those victims. By the fall of 2021, the court reviewing the consolidated lawsuit related to the collapse and the receiver for the association determined that the best course of action to provide at least some financial compensation for the victims was to sell this site for redevelopment. And that is the start of how we ended up here today. Our client was the sole bidder for that court-ordered sale. And since the court determined that this property was going to be redeveloped, as Judith explained to you, the former commission approved the resolution directing the manager to create a memorial park and pedestrian plaza on 88th Street. Guided by the administration, the design of this project has been completed in a manner consistent with that goal to provide as much access for the pedestrian on 80th Street and remove vehicular access and activity from 88th Street as much as we can. We are also, the efforts to help implement the Memorial Park are continuing as well. We participated in a sunshine meeting with members of the Memorial Committee and members of the Commission last week to discuss the implementation of the Memorial Park and potential legislative options that could open up some additional area on the property to extend the park. Now, also, even though this is not directly relevant to this board's review, we're in active discussions with the administration about our client's role in the development of the park. We made good progress and look forward to having that discussed when we get to the commission. So through those efforts, we hope that we can hope to accelerate the delivery of the park. So certainly less importantly, as to our location, I just wanted to remind everyone who doesn't remember, we are the southernmost property in the town on Collins Avenue. Immediately to our south is the City of Miami Beach, 87 Park Project. To our west, of course, is the Tennis Center and Veterans Park. And Solara to our north is the existing hotel / timeshare that's been there. And as staff explained, part of the rationale for the location of the park and the termination of the road is to ensure that both Solara and this property can have access. So, briefly, and Judith touched on this as well, we originally filed 2 alternative plans, each in our mind designed to comply with one or the other of the H120 enhanced side setback options. Under the terms of this ordinance, you can either choose the incline setback or the average side setback. Staff has disagreed with our interpretation of the average side setback provisions, and therefore that plan is not before you tonight. The plan before you instead complies completely with the incline side setback requirements. Now, I note that only, I belabor that only to explain again why only one design is going forward. And second, as a suggestion for this board as the local planning agency, that looking at the average side setback provisions for larger sites might be useful effort in the future. As interpreted, it's impossible to use that option on any lot that exceeds 100 feet without losing significant additional development area. So it's really not going to be a realistic option for larger sites going forward. So as applied right now, in larger properties, the average side setback does not help really keep the same volumetric consistency as the incline side setback, really. So, so again, I'm sorry to belabor that, but we think that's a fruitful area to investigate in the future. So, to the project itself. As staff indicated and in the report, project conforms with all the code requirements. We're at 120 feet. Maximum unit count in the building, 52 units, excuse me. 139 units are permitted under the terms of your zoning code. So that's an 87 unit reduction over what could be built here. The project exceeds parking and pervious area requirements significantly, and I'll show you that in a little bit. Landscaping. The landscaping is, Barry Miller and his team did a great job in a beautiful and resilient landscape plan for the entire property. We've got almost 2,200 new shrubs, 84% of them are native, almost 250 new trees, 96% of them are native. So why do I always harp on native species and Florida friendly as the code requires? Because that means that these trees and shrubs will go in looking great and they'll stay looking great because they're built for Florida's climate, seaside environment. So this will be a landscape plan that will look great in 20 years rather than just die off, et cetera. As to traffic, you might, as you might expect given the density, minimal traffic impact. Our traffic analysts concluded that the PM peak, which is the 4 to 6 hour period during the weekday, will generate approximately 17 trips per hour. So that's 10 trips in, 7 trips out of the entire building for that entire hour, less than 1 every 3 minutes. I want to spend a little time on the access because I think it's important and it's relevant to the discussion that staff had regarding the memorial. Because we have limited all vehicular access from residents, guests, Ubers, FedEx, the pizza guy to Collins Avenue. There are there's no driveway access for any passenger vehicle on Collins. The only activity on 88th Street will be loading. And loading in back of house for a residential building with 52 units in it is a very limited activity. So let me just take you through the access briefly. 2 driveways. Southern driveway is inbound and outbound. The northern driveway is outbound only. So the blue arrows there on your drawing show you what a person coming into the building, how their path would go. You make a turn on the southern driveway. If you're going to the garage, again, our garage is completely underground. You would proceed immediately down and park yourself. If you're valeting or if it's an Uber or if it's someone dropping someone off, you would pull into the pull-off area, that kind of blue area you've got here. You can see those 2 cars are waiting in the pull-off area. And then the car would go down to the garage. Coming back out, if you're driving yourself, you could immediately leave on the north and go northbound. If it's a valet, the valet will come, stop here. The resident can get in and then leave in the same way. As to the loading and the back of house operation, we are fully enclosing the loading area here behind a roll down door. So when this area is not in use, when in the limited periods where trucks have to come and drop or pick anything up, trash, et cetera, that is open, but then it's rolled down on all other times. So it's a very quiet area, and you notice from the plan, we have the significant amount of landscaping on both sides, right, in that area. So that is basically the access, the parking, and the loading. Very straightforward and consistent with the town's goals of keeping activity off of 88th Street. Parking. Now, this is our first parking level subterranean. We have 33 surplus parking spaces, 2 levels. What we're contemplating, why we have the 33 extra, is that given the nature of the clientele or the owners of these properties, they may be interested in enclosing 3 spaces into kind of a mini garage within the garage, and that can be, so that gives us the flexibility, those additional spaces to deal with that circumstance. But again, having surplus parking spaces is never bad, just in case. So that's the indication that I'm going to stand down, and you get the more interesting part of this presentation from Mr. Lapine. So I'll come back and we'll close it up, and then we'll open ourselves up for any questions and rebuttal, et cetera.
Thank you, Mr. Penn.
Hi, I'm Chris Lapine from Zaha Hadid Architects, and I'm here today to talk you through our vision for Surfside residences. Firstly, an introduction of our office. There's our team. We're an international firm. We're celebrating the opening of a recent project of ours. This is the BIA headquarters just outside of Dubai. And of course, we work all around the world. We work on projects of different scales and different types. We have a large portfolio of residential work, and of course, front and center, our very own 1000 Museum in Miami. So we are delighted to be here in South Florida again to work on another very ambitious residential scheme. Some site photos, and a well-placed site. As noted, it's pretty much a gateway into Surfside as you're driving north along Collins. And then from the opposite side, looking from the beach, the upper right-hand corner, outlining exactly where the site is. And a site plan that shows just how well-positioned it is, especially the separation between its neighbors, allowing enough room for fantastic views, pretty much panoramic views all throughout the building, excellent views of the bay side as well as the ocean side, almost wherever you are within the building. Now, a zoom in to the site plan, looking more specifically at our immediate landscape just in front. We're looking for a very holistic design on the site. So even the landscaping itself takes inspiration from the facade development, especially the really big move, which was this separation of the 2 volumes. And you can see how that plays into the landscape itself and helps create and inform the geometry of the water feature. So there it is, an image looking across the street from Collins to the project. So how did we get to this point? What is some of the what is the explanation? What was the process and the evolution that got us here? So of course, it's a very fluid design, but it didn't start out like that. Of course, it's a large site. This is the building mass, almost a very intimidating mass. So how do you break something like this down in scale? Well, the first big move was to slice it, separate it, and create effectively 2 smaller masses, almost 2 buildings on the site. And then, of course, it has the angle, the lean, creating a series of terraces, which inform the horizontal stratification. So we then grouped some of these terraces together to create this series of interlocking horizontal volumes. And those horizontal volumes and the slice through the building are further reinforced with the overall facade design. There's a summary, so you can see the steps from base volume all the way to the ultimate facade articulation. And then viewed more head-on, you can really appreciate the slice between the 2 buildings, which allow both daylight as well as airflow and visual sight lines right through the project. An aerial view of it, showing again how that massing works, a view from the beach side. The organization of the building, of course, at the very lowest levels, you have your arrival and amenities, lobby area, the residential levels throughout, and then at the very top of the building, we have more amenity space. So this particular diagram illustrates and shows that great variety of architectural features throughout, summarizes them. So starting at the very base of the building, the entrance or the arrival sequence, I think quite a dramatic arrival point. The view as you get dropped off, you can look straight through the lobby, straight beyond, right into this slice between the building. And even as you progress through the lobby, we're using a very transparent glass roof, so you can see all the way through up to a slice of sky above. And a more realistic rendering of that evening view, again, you can see right through from the entrance all the way to the dunes and the landscaping beyond. Flipping around to the opposite side of the building, this is now to the beach side, to the east, where again, using that division between the volumes to articulate and create moments and features of architecture within the design. In this particular case, using these fin elements to frame an archway-like feature. So it creates a bit of a procession from the beach actually back to the lobby, and gives you some really interesting views into what we refer to as the canyon, which is that area between the two sides. And I think some really unique and interesting views and perspectives that you can get between the two halves. Now, the development of these facades also emerged from a very practical standpoint. Of course, we separated the two halves to create airflow and light between them. We wanted to maximize daylight and views out, but of course there's the privacy issue. So what we did is we created a series of these privacy overlapping fins so that you still get the benefits of daylight and views without any overlooking issues. And I think it also makes a nice reference when we were looking at the overall patterning of this. It's almost a gigantic screen. It makes reference to sunscreens in tropical climates, also making reference to Miami modernism. And of course, so this is a view from the interior, so it's both a unique architectural feature on the exterior as well as creating, I think, some fantastic views looking through. Some very unique conditions there. The crescent facade module, so these are really a signature feature that articulate and create a dynamic movement across the facade. As well as, because of their shape and form, they also create a degree of privacy between different rooms and different units. So here, some close-up views of those balconies, of both the movement of the balcony, the crescent shapes, as well as the indentations and depressions and recesses within the glass facade, which come together and create a very fluid composition throughout. And an impression of what it might look like when you're within the unit, looking out to a nice sunrise condition. So on the north and south facades, we also looked at creating more recesses of the glass facade. In this case, creating a series of what we refer to as waves. There are these slight depressions in the facade that are oriented to create just a bit more space in the balcony, but also orient the viewer towards oceanside views. And you can see, together with the undulation of the glass facade, the movement of the balcony, the placement of the crescents, it creates this overall almost woven-like pattern of the facade. And again, another impression, we really like these atmospheric sunrise views. So going to the opposite side of the building, to the west side and at the very top, amenity space. So we have amenities for the residents here. In this case, overlooking the sunset pool area. So what were some of the influences of the project? Looking at the site, looking at some of the natural influences, of course, there's the beauty of the beaches, and more specifically, we were attracted to the beauty of the sand formations. And looking at our design language, very curvilinear, very fluid, taking all of this into account, as well as that very tactile quality of sand. You almost want to run your fingers through it, as well as the very sculptural quality of it. It seemed the perfect reference for both the overall design, which has this very fluid appearance in its sort of overall holistic image, but also down to the very level of detail. Now, it was mentioned that we're looking to match the color of sand. We're not just trying to match the color of sand, but the texture and the grain of sand. So we had it was almost like a sand laboratory. We did collect sand samples directly in front of the site. We even collected sand samples in different locations, at the very water edge, at the beach, and at the dune. And at the right-hand side, you can see a close-up. This was sand that was taken directly in front of the site to look at it close up, the speckling even of the sand. So it's not just the color, it's everything down to the texture of it. And then on the left-hand side, what you can see, we're passing around the sample now. The very left-hand image, it almost looks like that fluid Zen movement that I referred to earlier. And the second image from the left being an example of how we can create the geometry using the GFRC, the glass fiber reinforced concrete. And then even to the level of how it can be articulated and used in our cladding as the soffit condition. So it has that material quality, it has that it blends with its surrounding, but it also has that very animated fluid feature to it. In terms of our experience with this material, GFRC, the 1000 Museum that I referred to earlier, is also clad in GFRC. We use different techniques throughout the tower, but at the very base, we did use a cladding technique. And here you can see how all of the panels, they need to come together seamlessly to create that overall continuity of geometry. And the project that I referenced at the very start, this is our BIA headquarters in Sharjah, just outside of Dubai. Again, a very complex and fluid form using GFRC. So sort of rounding off the presentation, taking a look again at the image from across the street from Collins. I hope I've given you a bit of context so you can see how the thought process really contributed to this overall image, this overall vision for the site. And looking at it from the beach side, from the opposite side, again, the idea of the material being very much in keeping with the surrounding, to have a certain softness to it where it really blends in with the surroundings. From across the street, again, where you can appreciate the slice between the two halves. And then an aerial view where you can see, as I referenced earlier, the design of the facade and how it sort of works very nicely with the immediate landscape in front to create an overall holistic vision for this site. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll just close it off briefly, probably unnecessarily. Thank you, Chris, for that. It was very, very quick, too. There was a lot of slides. You did great. We're going to ask for you, obviously, we asked for your recommendation in favor of the site plan approval tonight. This is a low-impact use that we hope you agree proposes a level of design that has never been seen before in Surfside. We remain committed to continuing to work with the town to implement the Memorial Park on 88th Street. And we have no issues, as I noted before, with staff's suggested tweaks and clarifications. Here for any questions, of course, and I'd like to reserve time for rebuttal. Thank you.
I want to thank you for an amazing education on your design that was breathtaking, in my opinion. The thought is beyond who picks up sand and says, I'm going to recreate it. It's fabulous. I'm going to take this time to open this up for public comment. And we have cards. So we're going to go ahead and allow up to 2 minutes. I'm going to start with Eliana Salzauer, name and address for the record, please.
Salzhauer, 9317 Bay Drive. I was sitting as a commissioner when this building collapsed, when Champlain collapsed. I was there. I'm wearing the same boots, actually, because of the rain tonight that I wore that night that I wore that following week, dealing with the families. In this presentation, no one took a moment even of silence to recognize we're not just designing some building here, some beautiful architecture. This is a site where 98 of our residents lost their lives. And when I was up there, I made a promise to the families that we would never forget. And on January 11th, 2022, I wrote a resolution that passed to make 88th Street in its entirety, from Collins until the beach, a pedestrian memorial, closed to vehicular traffic except for emergency vehicles. That was very clear. We even had a discussion, and at 3:02:35, at exactly 3, Commissioner Kessel supported the resolution and specified that garbage trucks, he agrees, are not conducive there, and that we all agreed on that. It's for emergency use only. And yet, somehow this developer submitted not one but 2 applications earlier this year, both of them disregarding and disrespecting that memorial space. Minimally, and I don't want to get into the 10% versus 10 feet, because that's a whole nother ball of wax that no one's going to understand here, but everyone can understand what a memorial is and what it means to respect people. And in the heat of Florida, the stench of that roller going up even once, and the waft of garbage and garbage trucks there, that is the most disrespectful thing that you can do. That building, that 88th Street needs to be sacrosanct, okay? They can very easily move their garbage to the other side. 87 Park has their garbage right on Collins. Nobody needs to put their garbage trucks on 88. They can very easily do that. I would, at a minimum, please respect the families, respect what this commission did, and set aside 88th Street and say, emergency vehicles only. The garbage trucks are not an emergency. Loading dock is not an emergency. That is not an emergency. And the building on the other side of 88th, on the north side, has their driveway access right on the corner. That's it. That's as far in as this building should be allowed to go.
Thank you, Mrs. Salzauer. Our next speaker. Rita Spector. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
9364 Harding Avenue. Good evening, fellow residents, Surfside residents, town officials, and guests. I'm here tonight in support of the new development of 8777 Collins Avenue. My name is Rita Regev Spector. My husband Sid and I are returning to Surfside to reside in my childhood home that my father originally built, my father Sam Steinfeld, in 1971. The Champlain Tower tragedy deeply affected our community, the world, and myself personally as I grew up with and know some of the victims and survivors. We find ourselves at a crossroads grappling with the tragic collapse of the original building and its profound impact on the families who lost loved ones and those who were left homeless. These events, though heartbreaking, must be addressed and treated distinctly from the subject of tonight's proceedings, the new building site planning and application. As we examine the images of the development plan submitted to the town, we see an exciting addition to Surfside's streetscape. The proposed building is thoughtfully situated with value-added features to our community. The design maintains ample separation from neighboring properties, prioritizing improved access to both air and light. The number of units of the new design is notably lower than that of the original building, thereby significantly reducing traffic and parking access. The new building follows the town's established code, yet some residents are not aligned with moving forward with the project. I'm puzzled by accusations about this development, wondering if they hold any real substance or if they're merely a continuation of the divisive politics that sometimes has permeated Surfside and our community in the past. It is crucial that we approach this application for development of this property with impartiality and discernment.
Thank you, Ms.
Evaluating.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Very sorry that I didn't get to finish, but I hope that my point got through.
It was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker, Pablo Langsfeld, please. Langsfeld.
Good night, everybody. I will ask 3 minutes.
Name and address for
My
the
name is
record.
Pablo Langesfeld, 11310 Northwest, 53rd Lane, Doral, Florida, 33178. I will ask 3 minutes, 1 extra minute in memory of those who died.
Thank you.
Thank you. It doesn't matter how luxury this new building may be. It's going to be always on top of a graveyard tainted with blood. As a father who lost a daughter and families who have lost loved ones, we demand respect and honor. Regarding 88th Street, we should not be discussing anything today, period. 88th Street was designed as a memorial. Placing the garbage facilities adjacent to the memorial is an act of malice and disrespect for all of us. It doesn't matter how luxury a building may be, garbage is garbage. The building south of Champlain Tower has the entrance for the garbage through Collins Avenue. This is about doing the right thing. There's an ethical responsibility that comes with this project. 80th Street must be a memorial, period. Nor garbage truck, nor garbage traffic. Let's don't forget that the new building will not erase that bloody night of June 24, 2021. In the name of those 98 people who died in 12 seconds, I ask you to do the right thing. Remove that garbage entrance from 88th Street. And lastly, I would like to ask the developer, the architects, whoever is involved in this project, what would they do if they put a building on top of where their loved ones may have died? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Langsfeld. Next speaker, David Rodan. Back to 2 minutes. Name and address for the record. Thank you.
David Rodan, 3029 Northeast 188th Street, Aventura. My name is David Rodan. I lost a brother, 2 cousins, and the wife of one of my cousins 2.5 years ago in Champlain. And obviously that shattered my life, shattered the lives of all my family, and that's not why I'm here. I'm here because I'm outraged to see that the proposed plan for the new building is taking so much of 88th Street, a street that was assigned for a memorial, which is not much, but is all that we will ever have permanently to honor, to go there, to remember, to connect to our loved ones. Obviously, we wanted more, but we couldn't get more. I'm not here to object against the building. The building will happen. I'm here to object against the building taking part of 88th Street. They should be entitled to get 10 feet because of the hotel next door, and the memorial cannot take the entrance of the hotel. But to put a garbage facility there, to give them access for the loading zone, for Uber Eats, for FedEx, that doesn't make any sense. They should be doing what every other building on Collins Avenue is doing. They should have all of those facilities from Collins Avenue. Obviously, it's much less appealing for their entrance. It's less big, their valet space is less big, and it's not what they want. But I'm here to ask you to please don't let that happen. Make them do what every other building has to do This is not rocket science. They don't have to reinvent the wheel. They have to do what every other building that doesn't have a side street has to do. They have to make it work that way. And I'm here to ask you personally, and in the name of all the families of the 98 victims, not to let that happen. It's clearly in your hands and your decision. And obviously they want to do it. It's a more appealing building. They're gonna make more money. They're gonna sell the apartments more expensive. But it's gonna be a stain in the town and a stain in this commission if so much is given for them. I did the math, and the whole street is about 220 feet. They wanna take 100 feet. They wanna leave the memorial site to half of it. And I think it's outrageous, unnecessary, so please do what I consider is the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, Vanessa Frank.
Good evening, Vanessa Frank, 708 88th Street. Ladies and gentlemen, I extend my gratitude to all of you who have come together today to engage in a pivotal conversation that holds profound implications for our community. As we reflect on the tragedy that we as a community have experienced 2 years ago, we must come together to forge a path forward as a community as well. Today, we have an opportunity to address how we, as a community, choose to complement the future landscape of the beautiful town of Surfside. The design of the new building submitted for discussion demonstrates the alignment with Surfside's existing architecturally significant skyline. With a true star architect behind the design, who is dedicated to encompassing the local community within the design, the building will strengthen our communal path forward. The community's approach to this application must remain impartial and astute, devoid of external influences or personal agendas. Our community deserves an assessment that is fair, objective, and rooted in reason, untainted by bias or underhanded motives. Additionally, I've come to understand that the developer, in collaboration with the community and affected families, will pay homage with memorial. Although this query lies outside the scope of our current deliberations, it offers insight into the developer's commitment to the well-being and recovery of our community. In closing, I implore each of us to embark upon this journey with empathy, an open disposition, and a dedication to the common welfare. In our pursuit of progress, let us not forget our responsibility to commemorate the past and address the concerns of those who have endured the tragedy, as the ones spoken tonight. Collectively, we possess the capacity to forge a path forward that mirrors our community's values, guaranteeing a brighter future for all. I extend my appreciation for everyone's invested time and dedication to the welfare of the shared community that we all call home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Very well said. Our next speaker, Emanuela Jean Etienne.
Good evening. First, I'd like to ask for...
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Emanuela. I'd like to ask that I don't share my address because it would put my life at risk. I'd also like to ask that I have 4 minutes instead of 2 minutes for my presentation. My address is on that. I'm from the city of North Miami. May I have 4 minutes, and I will explain why I don't want to give my address.
Yeah.
Mr. Riccio.
Madam Chair, if the board, as a body, wishes to entertain for 4 minutes, then you can take a vote on that. But you also do not have to do that. the address will, given,
I mean,
yeah,
what is,
we have it for the record if we need it.
we do?
Okay, that's
do we
fine.
need-
I will give you my address. My address is 170 Northwest 128th Street, Miami, Florida.
Ma'am, is your address exempt from disclosure?
No, I understand.
No, it's not, but
It
it's
is
about
not.
to be.
Okay, I'm just trying to clarify. for
Can
the
I
record.
please have your last name?
Jean Etienne, Jean Etienne. All right? May I have 4 minutes?
I think we can, we're allowing up to 3 minutes.
Okay, may I
with
have 3
some
minutes?
special permission, is that okay?
That is perfectly fine.
Acceptable, thank you.
All right, first and foremost, I actually agree with these individuals. The fact that we didn't start off commemorating these victims was deplorable. We should have at least recognized that 98 lives were lost. Now, I'm asking for this development project to actually house 98 families. They're going to be researchers, scientists, and doctors. My name is Emanuela. I have an associate's degree from Miami-Dade College in biology. Then I went to Duke University. I studied evolutionary anthropology and public policy. Then I went to the University of Michigan. I studied civil rights and health law. I'm currently trying to raise $200 million for a biotech startup to cure diseases. Now, I am as autistic as Albert Einstein. I'm currently studying immunotherapy. I am studying the COVID-19 vaccine. And you don't know this yet, but the COVID-19 vaccine causes heart failure, turbo cancers, and weakens your immune system. Now I'm going to give you the cure.
I apologize, but I'm not sure that this is
Ma'am,
pertinent.
can you keep it to the relevant?
So I would
topics?
like the families of the scientists that are going to research how to save our lives to live in this building. So the reason I'm here tonight is because I wanted to meet with the developers so that we can have ongoing conversations.
Okay.
So I'm introducing myself to the community because I have 3 minutes and you are interrupting me.
You're correct. I am interrupting you, just because it sounds like this is more of a personal appeal.
It surely isn't if I'm going to save the lives of Miami-Dade County.
I would like to save the lives of Miami-Dade County as well. However, we are here to make a determination on the aesthetic value
And I am here to
what is
introduce
deemed
myself to the
appropriate
community.
based on the design review and guidelines of the town of Surfside.
I would like to change the current model so that it houses 98 families.
This is not about who was going to live there, ma'am.
My name is Emanuela. It means the second coming of Jesus Christ. I'm here to announce the apocalypse. Millions of people are about to die, and I would like to invite scientists to live on that building.
Alrighty. I didn't see that one coming. I made an attempt to understand. Okay, I apologize. We have one more, and then we can dive right back in here. Charles Burkett, name and address for the record, please. We're back to 2 minutes.
Charles Burkett, 1332 Biscaya. Hi, everybody. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about here. This is a very attractive building, and what I want to talk about tonight is Surfside's history. I'm a 3-time mayor. I've lived here for 26 years, and there's a tradition in Surfside, and it has nothing to do with this building. It has to do with principles and ideals and what residents see our community is. You know, there are a lot of people that think it's divisive to have an opinion about wanting to see our community preserved. It's not divisive. It's community service. We care about our community. We care about where we live. We care about what happens in the future, okay? This building is not gonna ruin Surfside. As a matter of fact, Chris, you did a great job tonight, wherever you are. Yep, I thought that was a great presentation. I think it's a nice building. I'm really unhappy about the garbage facilities being right in front of the memorial. We talked about that in the last commission. We absolutely didn't want it. Okay, there are some other things, there are some details that obviously are in the weeds that won't be discussed right now because it can't be discussed. But we want to preserve Surfside. We want to keep Surfside wonderful. Nobody wants to stop progress. We just want the right kind of progress. And we've got to be careful of incrementalism. It's destroyed Miami Beach. It's destroyed Sunny Isles. And that's what upsets a lot of us in this town that have been here a long time. We don't want to see that kind of incrementalism. And you guys, your duty is to stand up and protect what goes on in this town. You know, Barack Obama was right. Elections do have consequences. And there are differences among different elected officials. But for me, I'd like to make sure that we're really careful about development and we don't get too big, we don't get too crazy, and we keep it the way Surfside is going to be. Thank you.
Thank you. If there is no additional public comment, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and I'm going to bring it back to the board. I want to thank everybody who spoke. I think it's a sensitive and tough issue to tackle here, and I think everybody wants to make the best and right choices for the community as a whole, and not based on one or a small group of opinions. So it's coming back to the board
Madam
for
Chair.
comments. Yes.
I have two things. One addresses to the town attorney. We got an email yesterday or the day before, sorry, I was traveling, from our former mayor, who does not want to be divisive, sorry. One current board member or commission member and two past commission members. Have you and the other attorneys had a chance to read their email, and can you please comment on some of the discrepancies of what they wrote compared to what the truth really is?
Sure, and through Madam Chair, just to be clear, what they've raised is this 10-foot versus 10% setback, and I'll keep it short because you all have copies of this email. It's public. The email and the response is public record, but just generally speaking, the code says 10 feet for the first 30 feet in height, and then an incline setback thereafter. That code was adopted in 2021, November of 2021. It came from the zoning code rewrite, which was based on the 2006 code. The 2006 code, by the way, had 10 feet for the first 30 feet in height, and then you go up from there. The concept of the 10% never appeared in the code until 2014. When we were doing the zoning code rewrite, the instruction was base it on the 2006 code. That's exactly what we did. It was the same language throughout until September, and it was only because there was a modification to a setback provision. They wanted to incorporate the average setback, which is another option in the menu. They wanted to make that the default and then include this as an option. So all we did was retrofit it into that, kept the 10 feet. Then, again, not to belabor the point, but it was pulled out of that zoning code rewrite and discussed publicly and debated and reviewed by the commission as a discussion item on first reading, by the Planning and Zoning Board, then on second reading. The whole time it said 10 feet. So the code now was adopted as 10 feet. So that's what your staff has read the code as, because that's what it says, and we agree with staff in that reading of it. Does that answer the question?
It does.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And unfortunately, I have one more thing.
You may have the floor.
Thank you. So, this is in light of something that was posted online last night. Thank you, Madam Chair. For those of you who do not know me, my name is David Forbes. I'm a Surfside resident and have been on the P&Z Board for coming on 2 years now. I have asked the chair for a couple of minutes to clean up some lies that were written about me, Madam Chairwoman, and Mr. Bravo, along with 3 sitting commissioners last night by our former mayor, 2 former councilwomen, 2 current councilwomen. One of them is here tonight, sitting over there. And they had the audacity to call the three of us sitting up here on the board and our friends unethical, conspirators, and liars. Growing up 25 miles north of Detroit, Michigan, I was taught by my parents to never fight or argue with bullies unless they defame your family or defame your family's name. But unfortunately, Mr. Burkett, here we go. Most, if not all of you, have never been to a P&Z morning or board meeting since we have been here, including our former mayor, the current councilwoman, who is not here this evening, and a former councilwoman, who is also not here this evening. So they have no idea that we rarely agree on issues brought to this board. We disagree on a lot of key issues facing what is important to this town. We disagree on fences, on grass, on understorage, setbacks, etc. But after every meeting, we shake hands, we hug, we go eat, we have a drink, regardless how the vote turns out, as we have become friends. After the last council meeting, Madam Chair, myself, and Mr. Bravo invited our friends from the commission and others for pizza and a drink. We met at the Four Seasons Bar, not at a public hotel, not a private club, not the quote-unquote rich person's bar. We do what friends do. We discussed our jobs, our children, our kids' schools, family, and most of all, Lionel Messi and what he's done for the entire area, and talking about the Dolphins coming up. At no time was city, county, or state business talked about. Former Burkett has been being the bully he is, made it all up to either make himself look good or to get votes. It is not only wrong, but unethical for making up statements that are out and out lies. Let me be perfectly clear again. At no time did any of us discuss anything on this agenda, past agendas, or upcoming agendas. We are friends catching up, laughing, and having fun as friends. By the way, the two current councilwomen were also at the Four Seasons private bar, Mr. Burkett. Just to be clear, I went over there and offered both of them to come sit with us and have a drink and have pizza. They respectfully declined. Also, all three of us sitting up here separately spent time with them talking about things that people talk about. And even at the end, I picked up their drink tab. I have plenty of photos if anyone needs to see what the truth is, Mr. Former Mayor. But that is not the issue here. The issue is simple. Former Mayor Burkett not only lied again, but he made everything up to frighten everyone here. These tactics are textbook. They blame everyone, especially people you don't know and have never heard of, and say that's the reason we should or should not be doing anything. But the truth, or most importantly, what he doesn't bring up is what our job on this board actually is, which is to approve or deny based on the cohesiveness and the aesthetics of which the guideline is given to us by the city of Surfside. That's it, nothing else. Mr. Burkett, former and current commissioners, you owe me, Madam Chair, and Mr. Bravo, and most important, our families, an apology for the ethical accusations that never occurred. Nobody has the right to lie and make up things about other people and print them as fact, except for bullies. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Do I get to respond?
No.
I don't.
No.
See, so we get to hear your side.
We heard your side last night.
Mr. Burkett,
Yeah.
public comment is closed. It's in the board's purview right now for comments. Okay. Is there anybody on our board that would like to comment on the project presented, comments that the town of Surfside, town planners, floodplain manager,
I have a question for Judith, if you don't mind. Is it, oh, sorry, all right. Sorry. Quick question. Is it true that the garbage trucks are going to be going by the memorial?
So, I don't know if you have the site plan. If you look on the site plan. Where the loading dock is located
Okay.
is on grade, on ground level, off of 88th Street. And the loading area is where the waste, garbage, recycling will be picked up from. It's also the location for large loading and unloading, when people move in, move out, those kinds of services. It will not be used for, as they presented, for FedEx, Amazon, you know, Ubers. Those are all going to be directed to the front of the building. Traditionally, garbage is not picked up all day long. It happens once in the morning. Certainly the town can set hours for that. The town provides trash pickup.
And are they, as the property owner, are they asking anything extra of the town more than any other property owner would be asking?
In terms of garbage pickup?
In terms of loading and all these things that are near the memorial?
So, in general, for Collins Avenue, the town, along with FDOT, prefers to have those things happen off of Collins Avenue for traffic flow reasons, but also for safety. If the garbage collection happens on Collins Avenue, which does happen in certain cases, either the truck has to pull in and then back out onto Collins Avenue, which you can see what the conflict there would be, or they have to stop actually on Collins Avenue, which does happen in some cases. It's a safety hazard for the Public Works employees having to be out on Collins Avenue when the traffic is coming by.
Okay. Next, a quick question for the developer. Am I reading this right on page BZ002.00? Looks like total square footage is 387,000 and roughly 33,000 of that is for amenities. So you're like at, 355,000. Are those 7,000 square foot apartments?
James Galvin, 6420 Southwest 63rd Terrace. I represent the developer. Can you give me the sheet reference again?
It's BZ002.00.
Right here?
Yeah, right there. Right, so it's, you see 387,000 less the 33, which is 355 divided by 52 apartments. That's roughly
Correct.
7,000 square foot apartments?
Some are larger, some are smaller, yes.
On average?
On average, yes.
Those are massive, I mean.
They're large units, yes. So, but again, some are larger and, some are smaller. So they're not all the same size, but yes.
Right. I mean, I'm just saying that they're huge. I mean, we're talking about $25 million apartments on average over here, give or take.
Right.
Okay. Now, lastly, I'm just going to say my piece here, and then I'll hand it off to whoever wants. I went running by the Champlain the morning that it fell down. I run every morning at 6 o'clock. And I remember people sort of milling around, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever seen in my entire life. It was basically half a building down, and I can never even begin to understand what the relatives are feeling when felt that day. I knew people who were in that building who survived, and people who unfortunately did not survive. And I think that, one of the things that came out of that tragedy was that the town really came together. It was a wonderful thing that this sort of Surfside became one, and it was Surfside strong. We all got together. The temples mobilized, the churches mobilized to take care of all the relatives. It was really a beautiful thing. And as we sort of went through the process, we found that unfortunately the building was grossly underinsured. It was terrible. It wasn't maintained properly, and to this day we don't know the cause of the collapse. So obviously the trustee moved on to sell the land. There was only one entity that came in and stepped up and paid $120 million for this. I don't think there was anybody within $30 million of that price. There were no other buyers. So, so obviously a building here is going to happen. It's unrealistic that to expect someone to pay $120 million for a building and not build a building there. So that's one of the things that's just, it has to happen. And And obviously, that money went a long way toward helping out the victims, the relatives of the victims as compensation. At the same time, I think unfortunately there's been, another tragedy as we've gone down the last couple of years here. And that what was really something that brought this town together has unfortunately been exploited by certain people to cause political divisiveness in their own political ambitions. And I think it's not a tragedy, but it's terrible. I think exploiting victims is awful. It should be avoided at all costs. And I think that those people that just have these political ambitions should be ashamed of themselves that they're doing that. It's something that we should never tolerate. And I think, obviously, aside from apologizing to those that they're going after, they should apologize to the victims because they're using the victims as pawns as their own political agenda, and that is unacceptable. So, I'm hopeful that this building is built. I think it's a great addition to this town. I hope that somehow the hours with the trash collection could be worked out so that there's a respectable memorial here, because this is something that impacted this town in ways that no one who does not live here can ever understand. But I remain supportive of this project, and I just hope that the developer and the relatives of the victims can work something out, that a proper, respectable memorial is put on the site or adjacent to the site.
Thank you for your well-spoken comments.
I have a question for Judith. I'm looking at Z101.00, which is the site plan. Am I correct in saying that the loading dock is roughly, depending on where you measure from, if you measure from the curb of 88th, it's either 50 or roughly 50 or 60 feet, depending on, I don't know how or I'm sorry, 45-ish feet to maybe 55 feet or something like that from the street. So it's deep into the building.
Oh, the distance from the curb, from
That's
the
right.
property line in?
Right.
Yes.
So you're not
Do you
gonna.
know the exact distance from the property line to the start of the building? Through the length of the loading? You want the length of the loading dock?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically from, not from Collins, from 88th into the building. It seems like they've cut into the building to try to be
Yes.
sensitive
And-
about that
and-
issue with the garbage truck.
The answer's 38.
38.
38 feet is from the property line. Then it goes out, you've got the sidewalk as well,
Right,
obviously.
which is-
And the tree coverage, I see you have a lot of tree coverage on that side.
It's 70 feet, it's not 38.
No.
70
so,
feet?
So just, no, can I, we can, excuse me.
I'm
sir.
sorry.
Can we please
if-
keep the comments from the public?
One moment. So if we could put up the site plan so we're all on the same page. I think that Mr. Bales is actually referring to the length of the loading dock itself, not the distance from Collins Avenue. But
Not from Collins Avenue, from 88th Street.
from 88th Street. So we're talking about two different numbers, so let's clarify so we're
What I'm
on-
talking about is just, are you going to have a garbage truck hanging out into 88th near the facility? And it seems to me that it's not going to be hanging out there because it's quite deep into, it's almost bisecting the building here.
So,
Can you bring up 101? I think it's a better, the 101.
It shows it on the site plan.
It's BZ 101.00. I think it shows it best.
well, this one shows it as well.
That shows it, yeah,
Correct.
that's good.
So the answer to your question is from the back of sidewalk, so from the property line, the loading dock entrance, so the actual rolling door is 38 feet, plus we have the depth of the loading dock that's within the rolling door.
Yeah.
The intent is that the trucks can pull completely into the property and
Right.
not be sticking out or not have any portion of their vehicle, leaving, sticking out into 88th Street whatsoever. So the whole idea is to have any vehicle that has to go in there to come completely into the building. We roll the door up, they pull in, As soon as they leave, we roll the door down, and they leave the space.
And the second question I have, this is for the developer. Will that space be conditioned space inside that door?
Inside the loading dock,
Yes.
on the inside of the door, yes, it will be conditioned.
So there won't be smells and things like that
No.
from the heat of Miami?
The trash room is a separate room that's not contained within the loading, meaning the dumpsters are not just sitting in the loading dock. The dumpsters are sitting in an enclosed trash room. It's actually pressure regulated, okay? And then all those smells are contained within that room. Whenever the trash is scheduled to be picked up, the door within that room opens up. They wheel the dumpster into the loading dock. The truck pulls in, puts it into their back. Everything closes. They all leave.
Okay. Was this done to protect that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we brought it in as far as we can.
Okay.
I mean, you can see the loading dock goes right up to the core of our building.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judith, the location of the entrance and exiting of the dumpster, is it mimic what was existing as far as position on this new building?
What was previous with
Yes.
Champlain Towers?
Mhm.
The actual loading dock for the Champlain Towers was further to the east on 88th Street. It was
Okay,
closer
yes.
to the beach than
So
what
I
they're
was,
proposing.
I believe that I understood one of the comments or conversations that was not here, that was explained to me that they tried to be as mindful as they could about where in fact the entrance exit of the actual trash area would
mean-
be, and that it would be as far away from view of the main street and as sensitive to the space to the east of it.
Correct. Town administration was, of course, aware of the resolution designating 88th Street when the development team first came to us. The very first meeting, the town manager and I and other staff had with the development team, we said, we need this as close to Collins Avenue as possible. They can explain to you a little bit about the why we came to this location. But I mentioned in my initial that we've been talking to them since November of 2022.
Right.
We didn't see preliminary plans until much later, but we have been discussing and encouraging them to be cognizant of this because the town administration is certainly committed to a respectful, appropriate, long-lasting
Right,
memorial as
right.
our priority.
Is there anybody else on the board that had a question about that specific placement or comment?
Yeah, I do have a question. My first question is about the possibility of mirroring this. Have you done any analysis to, instead of using 88, using 87th in example, right? So flip it.
It's a closed street.
Well, as everybody knows, 87th is not a street anymore. It was closed, and it's a dedicated beach access. So it's not an accessible street that vehicles can use to the degree that it would need to be used in order to provide services to a loading dock. That's the first reason. There are some other reasons that we have to have the loading dock where it's at. They include requirements from Miami-Dade Fire Department. They include requirements from FDOT, which the town has already referred to, and we are simply following those regulations.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, where
Please,
you
please,
can.
Mr. Roden, please, you know what the rules are here.
May I?
Mr. Roden, please, you're being out of order. Please, you're disrupting the proceedings.
It's a 200-foot street.
You're welcome to make your point at the commission meeting.
Don't worry, I'll take myself out.
For
Sorry.
clarity, for clarity,
Oh, okay. I didn't think it was necessary to have an argument, but go ahead.
for clarity for the board, this is a letter. These are the requirements from Miami-Dade Fire on providing fire truck access to buildings that are over 3 stories in height. According to their regulations, we must provide fire truck access to 2 sides of the building. And not only that, each side of the building must have access to the center of the building. Okay, so we're simply following the regulations from Miami-Dade Fire.
Thank you. Did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on that and maybe share my thoughts while I was
Absolutely.
at it. So first of all, I just wanted to say I'm thrilled to have this design team in Surfside. I think what you showed tonight is beautiful. The way you described the articulation, the nods to the Surfside sand and the inspiration, I think is great. I am very hung up on the loading dock, and I don't think it's in compliance with town code based on the ordinance that was passed. I understand that emergency vehicles need to get through to the beach, but I think it's a real, I just don't think it's in compliance, and I think it's a real lost opportunity, zooming out a little bit, to do something incredible here on this frontage. And frankly, I think this design team, of any in the world, and this developer has an opportunity to do something spectacular here in honor of our town. And if anyone can do it, you guys can. I know it's possible to fit emergency and garbage access on this site without using 88. Every other building that doesn't have a side street frontage is able to do it. I respectfully request that you guys revisit that and come back to us with something that is a better compromise for what we need in the town. And I think you can do it without drastically altering things. But I can't support the concept even of this kind of entry and loading and trucks and garbage coming on this frontage that is really set aside in our law for a memorial. So I respectfully ask that you reconsider and that you please try to come back with a compromise.
Okay, we hear your comments.
Okay.
Carolyn,
Yes.
can I
Yes, Mr. Herrera.
just want to jump in and get some clarity? There's a resolution, whether it's in compliance with that resolution or not, there's a question being brought up, and I wanted to understand from the town attorney. I believe the resolution directs the manager of the town to work with the county and FDOT to make sure, to see what they can do about it. And that's what the resolution states, because the town of Surfside doesn't have full jurisdiction on that because of the fact that the county and FDOT are in charge of that street.
So just to clarify, through Madam Chair, the resolution, I'm just gonna read from it, and you saw it on your screen, or up on the screen when Ms. Frankel presented the initial portion of it. The manager is hereby directed to take all steps necessary to pursue all government approvals necessary to permanently close that portion of 88th Street located in between Collins Avenue on the west and the public beach to the east to vehicular traffic for a memorial park and pedestrian plaza honoring the victims of the Champlain Towers South collapse. The closure of any portion of 88th Street to vehicular traffic is subject to the maintenance of emergency or governmental vehicular access and any access required to reach property north and south of the street end. There is a provision that says access required to reach property north and south of the street end.
I guess, so basically, the question really goes, did the managers work with the county over here?
That was the direction.
Okay.
Okay, is there any additional?
More questions? Yes. Following this whole situation about the trash, is it possible to maybe modify some portion of the entrance on Collins Avenue to grant that entrance for these trucks? You know what I'm saying? Like towards the residence amenities area.
Well, I believe Judith touched on that. There are FDOT restrictions on backing in and backing out into Collins, and I understand that other properties have the exact same condition that don't have a side street. The unique thing about this particular lot is that this lot is positioned in a way that is on a curve and it's directly in front of an intersection. And because of those reasons, we have to maintain a clear site triangle. I'm gonna come back to it, as everybody knows the site. You can see that we have this turn from going north, heading north on Collins, creates a blind spot to see the intersection and see the traffic lights. Because of this turn, Florida Department of Transportation is requiring us to maintain a clear, they call it a clear sight triangle. We're not allowed to put anything into this sight triangle that obstructs the views of the oncoming motorists heading north in Collins, so that way they can clearly see the intersection ahead of them. Again, this is another example of us complying with the laws. We're following exactly what we're being told.
Thank you.
But, sorry, just to follow up on that. Why couldn't you use that curb cut that you're using currently for valet and somehow modify or expand it to allow for a truck to get into that southwestern part of the building?
Because the truck will still have to back out onto Collins and block at least 2 lanes of traffic, which is what currently happens on Collins on all the other buildings that don't have side loading dock access.
Why couldn't you do a turnaround there on the site?
There's not enough space to do a turnaround for a truck that large.
If you move the building, I mean, I'm talking, like, let's zoom out a little bit.
Oh,
Just
I
we're not
understand.
limited by the current envelope. I'm highly confident there is a way to accommodate garbage and loading.
We hear your suggestions. We're continuing with the building as designed, as we
but
are following the
I understand it
compliance
would
of
require
FDOT
a
and FDR.
redesign. That's
Correct.
why I know that's a big ask, but I think it is possible.
Well, do you have a recommendation or a suggestion? I think they're
Yeah, well,
listening.
I think I've made my recommendation clear, which is I would like them to come back with an alternative that allows for a full frontage on 88th Street as the ordinance read. I mean, we're not gonna redesign it for them. They have the finest team in the world on their side,
But
so.
if I'm understanding the conversation, what is being conveyed to us through visual and words is that they cannot load or unload any kind of truck on
They can
that
if they move the
space.
building. They just don't want to move the building. There is a way to redesign this site to accommodate loading on the site. And look, if you try and FDOT says no, I mean, that's, at least you tried. But, I think we really need to honor the intent of the ordinance along 88th Street to close it from Collins to the beach, except for emergency vehicles, not for garbage and loading.
But let me ask you, I mean, did you have this conversation with FDOT?
Yes, we have.
But they presented this plan to FDOT, right? So.
No. The plan was adjusted and modified in collaboration with FDOT.
Mhm.
This is at their request. This is at their instruction, the way it's currently designed. And again, the same with Miami-Dade Fire.
How many times a day will they do trash pickup?
I believe they do it once or twice a week, correct? So
One of
once
the
a day.
benefits of Surfside.
Once a day. Once a day.
Okay, so, I mean, I can't imagine that would be, does any idea how long that takes typically?
Well, I mean, if you see them as they operate on Collins, they, usually the operation on Collins takes a lot longer because what ends up happening is the truck when it's on Collins, the truck has to stop in the middle of Collins. There has to be a flagman, and then the folks that are working in the building have to push the dumpster out onto the Collins, then the truck lifts it and puts it back. So the operation probably takes twice as long as it will take here, because now they just pull in, they lift, and they back out.
So you think 10, 15 minutes they're in and out, or?
Much less than that, a fraction
Okay.
of that time.
Can we control when they pick up the trash so that there shouldn't be any,
Before we go
generally in a
further
time?
with the continuation on garbage questions and ideas, I would like to, if I may, call Hector, the town
Madam
manager.
Chair, I am here to assist with any questions you may have regarding the topic.
I would like for you to chime in on any of this conversation that can be helpful to what is being asked
Madam Chairwoman, I'm trying to get a scope of really, are we arguing about grains of sand, or are we arguing about something substantive? And I understand that the side of the building is not going to have any sort of grotesque anything outside. It's going to be, everything's behind the door, if you will.
Everything's behind the door, and everything is behind landscape.
And behind landscape, and
and-
set into the building between 38 and 50 feet, depending on where you measure from.
Correct.
If it's a 5-minute operation, I mean, are we arguing over,
I don't disagree with your statement.
at 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning? I mean, is it really that much of an issue? And if they bring it to Collins and it takes 20 minutes, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be in view of the memorial anywhere you are over there. We're not. This isn't green fields. I mean, these are small sites. I mean, so it wouldn't 20 minutes on the street or whatever it might be more derogatory than 5 minutes in and out at 6.
Understood, understood. I think these are all valuable comments and questions, but before I say my opinion or ask my question, I would like our town manager, Hector, to chime in on the conversation and give some more light.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll provide some updates in regards to the town manager coordination related to the resolution pertaining to the closure of 88th Street. It did involve, keep in mind that even though it is a municipal roadway, it is governed by other agencies. There is traffic control that's governed by Miami-Dade County Public Works and Transportation. They've already given me the statement that they can't remove that intersection. So therefore, some space needs to be allotted on 88th Street to respect the functioning of that intersection currently on 88th and Collins. There's an existing driveway, so the full closure of 88th Street will require a driveway to be shifted on the north, which would require concurrence from that property in the north to modify the driveway system. Keep in mind that that driveway, the way it is, as tight as it is to Collins Avenue, was grandfathered in. You cannot build that driveway to that type of specification coming off into the highway system. That was an older building. It was grandfathered in that way. So any new driveway would not fit the criteria for Miami-Dade Public Works and Transportation. When it comes to FDOT, we do have a follow-up meeting with them tomorrow, I do. But the conversations have all led that they do not want any loading and staging on Collins Avenue that would impact that arterial highway if there is a way to accommodate it on a secondary roadway. Additionally, any modifications to that intersection would require FDOT approval. So we already have non-concurrence for the full closure. What we do have is enough of a concurrence to allow us to close a substantial amount but still accommodate certain requirements. Last one is fire rescue. Fire rescue, I can confirm that they want, I believe, 2 to 3 staging points around the structure. Some of that, the conversation was brought up, well, how come 87th Street was able to close the street? Well, at that time, that closure, it put a burden onto this 88th Street. So these are just things that we have coordinated. So what we've provided, what was surveyed out, is the requirements, what we could do to close 88th Street to provide substantial amount for memorial. Keep in mind, even though the developer is proposing a driveway, operationally, I've already discussed this, we're not going to be using that driveway for trash pickup. We're trying to get out of the game of picking up from private property. There's certain liability issues involved with our sanitation vehicles, and I'd like to just be clear, it's sanitation, it's not garbage. There's a lot of hardworking guys towards that, so it's sanitation. We want to keep these guys safe, but we want to do it in such a way that we're respecting the existing memorial. There's an existing crosswalk there. The way we've discussed preliminary plans for pickup for that refuse service is pulling in where that crosswalk area is, just slightly in. So you're coming in from into a northern approach. You tuck in just east of the crosswalk. Containers get rolled out, they get loaded, and it comes back out into Collins Avenue and goes northern. So we're not anticipating from an operation standpoint to use that driveway, that loading dock. So that loading dock really becomes a primary loading dock for this facility, but we're not planning on using it for sanitation purposes. We're going to keep our services westernly. That's something that we'll be able to work out. So I hope those are just points towards discussion, and if you have any questions, I'm here.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Hector. There are just times in everybody's lives that nothing goes exactly to planned. And I think that this is one of those unfortunate situations where I think we can ask and we can continue to ask for other thoughts on placement of it, but if I understand what the town manager just explained, is that you cannot load or unload anything on the face of Collins Avenue, period. And that's never gonna sit with the people who think, thank you for coming. I'm not ignoring. I think we're all here and we're all listening, and we are very sensitive to everything that you have to say and your feelings, and we are entrenched in this community and want to do the right thing. And I have to say that personally, I'm extremely grateful that I don't think we could be so fortunate as to have a better person or a better group come in and say they want to construct on a very sad place. And I think that we all have to find something within ourselves that gives us light and something to look forward to, and hope that whatever lessons were learned that give us the ability to move forward. And there will never be enough words or enough tears for what everybody has gone through. I think your proposed building is absolutely beautiful. And I think there will be a lot of light in this building. And I think there'll be a lot of love that the community will have. And time, hopefully, will heal and improve, and some things will never go away. And I'll never say the right thing, and there'll never be the right answer for anybody. But I'm thankful for what I couldn't have thought to be a more beautiful, masterful piece to be there. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
If anybody else would like to add anything?
How do you follow that?
I'm sorry.
Geez. Leaving that one issue aside, because that's what pretty much everyone's been focusing on the last hour or so. They had a litany, the three of them combined, and I lost count at 20 of things that they wanted you to do, and on town recommendations.
Correct.
Was there anything on that list that you've said no to them about?
Zero. Not only have we received and accepted every single comment given to us by the town, we've already answered those comments as well, and responded and made adjustments.
Answered and cured them, or answered them and you'll get back to them?
No, and answered and cured them.
Yeah.
Answered and cured them. There aren't any open items to be designed. Everything has been answered and resolved based on comments from the town.
I also don't have the right words. So I think the building is,
It's beautiful.
I think it works. I think nothing works there except for what was there, but it's not. So it works. It fits. It's part of whether everyone here is in agreement of the design or not in the agreement of design. I think it works in the city of Surfside. And I don't know if my other commissioners, but the trash thing is a major, sanitation is a major issue on 88th, but it doesn't seem like there is an alternative. I don't believe redesigning the entire building and going back to the drawing board and starting over is an alternative. I think you had two alternatives. Mm-hmm. My personal favorite was the other one, but this is a beautiful building. And that's it.
By the way, whether you know me or not, I'm a third-generation beach girl, and I grew up with a lot of people here. And I moved back into Surfside the day that it happened. And and yes, I knew people in there, and yes, I have friends who did make it out. And it's hard, but we must, this is, we have to move forward. It's hard, and it'll never be easy. And if this is the way that it's intended, and this is what God has given us, I feel we are very lucky. Sorry. If anybody would like to make a motion.
Can I just make one more comment?
Of course.
We have a once in a really generation or lifetime chance here tonight to do something that works for our town. I'm asking this board to consider, I know it's really hard, and I'm usually right on board with passing things through and moving things quickly. I think this merits maybe just a little bit more study. I wonder if I could get your support to defer just 1 month to the next meeting and ask the developer to at least explore how they can get the loading off of 88th to be in compliance with the town law that was passed go from Collins to the beach.
We don't, this is a conversation. I'm sorry, it's not a cheering section.
Didn't the town manager say that it was actually in compliance? You keep using that word,
Yes.
not in compliance, but I think what...
Yes, I don't agree with that interpretation. I don't think delivery and loading and sanitation is emergency vehicles. I think the intent of that was to preserve the entire frontage for the memorial. So my opinion is I don't agree.
But it's the ordinance states that it has to be in compliance with FDOT, which is who I think ultimately governs that. And the developer has said, and the town manager has said that they in fact worked with FDOT and they
with this plan. But this plan can be amended to a compliant plan with FDOT.
They actually originally had two separate plans. So I'm not privy to how many plans, in fact, they worked with FDOT or how many plans were not available at the time they worked with FDOT. I don't know if they worked with FDOT before they even produced any plans. And maybe that's the question. You want
1 month for them to go back and
I think
adjust.
maybe the question is, was FDOT
Correct.
a conversation prior to the creation of what we are
The
viewing
answer
today?
is this plan is a result of our communication and coordination with FDOT. This is not something that was done in a box and then shown to them. This was done with some open communication with them. And this is the result of what has transpired from those conversations, from those meetings. And again, there's a Miami-Dade fire element to this too. It's not just FDOT.
And they would similarly review an all amended plan. That's part of the conversation.
I understand what you're saying, but I don't know if I'm hearing the same conversation. That prior to the creation of this plan that we are viewing today, before they ever went pen to paper, it sounds as if there was a communication or a meeting with FDOT on what they could and could not do. I'm not trying to say no or yes. I'm trying to say, how is it to respond to what you're asking? You're asking them to go back and for us to delay another month for them to find another creative way off of Collins, which FDOT already said, no, you cannot.
They said no to that plan. If we, as town of Surfside, said our law says you may not use this frontage, they would have to redesign this building, and they'd have to get FDOT to make it work, and the Miami Fire to make it work. The fire is fine. I think that fits on the 88th Street. It's the loading and the sanitation here. And again, I mean, I don't feel like I have the support on the board, unfortunately, but I'm asking just to take a month. I mean, this is gonna be up for 50 years.
My
Let's take
take
a
on
month.
this, my take on this is that whatever Surfside says regarding the local regulation doesn't supersede FDOT. I've been building around, and there are two agencies that it's impossible to fight with. It's fire and FDOT.
So,
It's maybe there's a way that I don't know, but I've been doing this for 20 years, and so far, whatever they say is what you have to do.
I also don't think it's a month. I think that if you're gonna do a full redesign here, that's gonna take substantially longer than 1 month to get back into compliance.
but it sounds like a moot point.
It's a moot point anyway, but even
I
if
don't
we
think
were.
it's a moot point, guys. I'm also a developer. I also work with Miami-Dade Fire. I also work with FDOT. I know that it's possible to find a solution on this site that they can sign off on. Why not take
Please,
2, 3, 6 months? If it's 6 months, to do something that's right to, I understand that, but it's also costing our town the integrity of this memorial on 88th Street. So I don't know how else to say it. You know, this team can do it. I have faith in this team. They are creative.
Well,
They
I
are-
think we just heard that you believe that FDOT will make a change, and Mr. Bravo said that FDOT does not change. So, you know, it's not, it sounds like a fight that can't happen. It sounds, I mean, am I
No,
hearing
for-
two different stories?
For clarification purposes, you already had that conversation with FDOT.
Correct, it's called a
And you didn't go
pre-application.
with these drawings, you went with an idea. So after that conversation, you came up with these drawings.
that's
how
correct.
it happened.
Did
That's
the
correct.
initial plan show sanitation and loading off of Collins?
No, the initial plan, as Bravo said, is an idea, it's a concept. So we can understand what the limits are, what we can and cannot do. And through that, it's called a pre-application meeting. Through that pre-application meeting, they give us the guidelines. You can do this and you cannot do that. Correct, so that's what we've had. Based on that meeting is where we've evolved to the drawings to where they are today. That's what I'm trying
Right,
to
but the underlying
communicate.
assumption in that pre-application meeting was that you were going to access the site from 88th Street.
No, the assumption in that pre-application meeting was that FDOT was telling us to put our loading on 88th Street. They directed us to put our
Right,
loading
because
on
they
88th.
didn't know about the town law that was passed that said
They
only
respectfully,
emergency vehicles.
they did know, and to kind of go along with what Mr. Bravo was saying, they kind of don't care, because their jurisdiction is their road, Collins. They honestly do not care what anybody else says or does on their road. It's whatever their law says, because it's their arterial roadway. So we have to follow their guidelines, since our property abuts that arterial roadway. We have to follow what they're telling us to say.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
may I just clarify one aspect of this? Just a
Yes.
minimal aspect, but it's important.
Yes.
It is not a law, it's a resolution of the town commission. That's different from an ordinance.
Okay.
An ordinance is a law. So I just wanted to be clear about that aspect of it. This discussion about directing the manager to explore how to close 88th Street.
Right.
And what the provisions were, that is a resolution.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Yeah, Judith?
So just to further embellish the conversation, and I don't know if there was a complete understanding of what the town manager said earlier. We cannot, regardless of what happens on 8777, fully close 80th Street, the street end there. One, because of Solara to the north. There is an entrance there that is existing. So that, first of all, and I know that that entrance is much closer to Collins Avenue, but because we cannot fully close that intersection, because in other situations like with 87th Terrace, they fully closed that. We cannot fully close that because the intersection itself has to remain because of access to the property to the north. Which, by the way, if that property was ever to be redeveloped, we would not allow that entrance where it is now. It would have to be set back further to the east because it's really unsafe having that entrance that close to Collins Avenue. But that said, so 88th Street cannot be fully closed because of access to the building to the north. So because the street is not being fully closed, that leads FDOT to say, you have space there. We are not closing this. We have to maintain the intersection because of emergency access and because of access to the property to the north. The property to the north also needs fire rescue services. So those things happened, and then FDOT says, okay, it's not closed, it's not fully closed.
Mm.
It's partially open. So just to clarify. And also further, I felt like I said this before, but I'll say this again, the entire street will be dedicated to the memorial, to the memory of what happened. The entrance portion to the memorial will be redesigned as part of the RFP process we're going through now. The entire roadway will be have a new concept and be redeveloped. I completely understand your point, and that's under your purview, what you want to do about the loading dock. I just want to fully explain the town's position. Sometimes the town manager, because of the former jobs that he's had, talks in technical language, so I thought it would further clarify.
Well, you did a very good job. And thank you. I mean, is that make a clearer and better understanding for you, Lindsay?
That's helpful, yes. You know, I still think we can do better, but, you know, I think I've made my point.
Okay.
My last question to the developer, what sort of help or, you know, working together situation are you willing to provide for when we decide what to do? What's gonna be the final design for the memorial?
We have already met with the town in regards to the Memorial Park, as it's called, which is the memorial and the overall space. We have already expressed that we are willing to help in any way and merge the landscape design on 88th Street that's on our property with the future landscape design, whatever that is, of the Memorial Park. In fact, we're already discussing a resolution, and in that resolution, certain statements will be made regarding that. So we are actively engaged in communicating with the town and the Memorial Committee on providing those types of collaborations.
Thank you.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Ederai?
I would like to make a motion to approve 4D subject to town recommendations.
Okay.
I second.
Madam Clerk?
Board Member Ederai?
Yes.
Board Member Bravo?
Yes.
Board Member Lecour?
No.
Vice Chair Forbes?
Yes.
Chair Baumel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you for your time.
I would like to ask for a 5-minute recess, a motion to
I make a
take
motion
5?
for a 5-minute recess.
Second.
All those in favor?
I need an environmental break now.
Yes, now. Now. You're live.
We are on? We,
Apologize for the poor people.
we,
Hold on, I'm missing my town attorney.
who needs an attorney? No.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
We've got 4 people. We have a quorum. Get over here.
Okay,
I will call the roll again.
we're gonna call roll again.
Chair Baumel,
Yes, I am right here.
Vice Chair Forbes, shh,
I'm here.
Board Member Bravo,
Here.
Board Member Lecour,
Yes.
Board Member Szafranski.
Here.
Board Member Bales is having pizza? Yeah, they're both having pizza. And Ederai, okay.
Okay, we have a quorum. We are back on track. I want to thank you for living through 8777 Collins Avenue.
Madam Chair,
Town
can we
planner?
also thank the three of them for a great presentation, for that last presentation, and how clear it was and how precise, and it really just made our job a lot easier because of the three of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, truly, you guys, expeditiously, outstanding. Okay, let's roll.
They all need their approval, so.
Okay, we're going back to A.
Yes, sorry.
Let's just note for the record that both Board Member Ederai and Board Member Bales are back. Thank you, Mr. Forbes.
No worries.
BIB, back in business. Here we go.
Okay, so we're on what was formerly 4A and has now become 4B, 9132 Dickens Avenue. This is an application request to demolish a one-story home and construct a new two-story single-family home, subject property at 9132 Dickens Avenue in the H30B zoning district. The proposed home is 28 feet 11 inches from crown of road to the tie beam. Roof eaves 16-inch in width, both in compliance with the zoning code. The proposed lot coverage for this home is 40% of the lot as required for the first floor, with the second floor listed at about 80% of the first floor. The front recessed steps and the rear covered patio are not included in the lot coverage calculation. These additional areas may not exceed 6% of the lot. Setback calculations for the first and second floor have been provided and comply with the minimum requirements per code. The exterior design elements of the front facade include vertical ribbed stucco, travertine cladding, and engineered wood look finishes. Gray aluminum frames are proposed for all window and door frames. The front facade provides articulation on both the first and the second floors with a recessed entryway giving a visual interest to the home. The rear of the home features a covered patio, outdoor kitchen, pool, and pool deck. The pool and pool deck are proposed to be raised 3 feet from the neighbor's property grade. I mentioned that, the 3 feet specifically, because that's, will allow for a 3-foot fence above that, because 6 foot is the maximum fence height from the neighbor's grade. When you raise the grade of any portion of the property, once it's above 30 inches, you have to, per Florida Building Code, you have to provide a guardrail. So they'll be able to comply with the Florida Building Code with a 3-foot raised grade. Pervious area calculation needs a little bit better defining. The applicant is here and has an application, so presentation, so he may address it there, to ensure the 35% minimum pervious space requirement is fulfilled. The code says no area where the seepage of rainwater is impeded can be counted towards the pervious requirement. The front driveway, it's concrete strips with grass in between. So I need a little bit better definition of how that's going to be installed to be able to count that as pervious. The application is found to generally comply with the zoning code. Planning and Zoning Board should determine whether the new home's design is consistent with and in conformance with the design guidelines set forth in the town code. If the design is determined to be in conformance, staff recommends approval with the following conditions. Per section 90-2, which is this definitions section, which defines lot coverage. In no instance may the sum of the lot coverage of the home and the exemptions listed there, which include covered and uncovered terraces, exceed 46% of the lot area for a two-story home. The front recessed steps and the rear covered patio together are not likely to exceed that 6%. I think that it will work, but the calculations need to be provided. Again, with the pervious ordinance, I'm asking for better definition of how that was calculated, especially with the exclusion of the driveway and walkway areas. Additionally, planters with concrete bases or those undercover may not be counted towards the pervious requirement. So better definition of that is necessary. They are proposing 3 live oak trees in the right-of-way, which is allowed. Public Works doesn't like them too close to the street for access reasons. My recommendation is they pull those a little bit closer to the property line, if not on the property line, so that the canopy will still provide shade to the street, but the roots are less likely to impede underground utilities. Additionally, we always put that in there, per 90-97, a tree removed or relocated requires a tree removal permit from Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade County does our tree permitting. The applicant is here and has a presentation I've loaded and can answer any questions.
Okay, prior to the applicant, Mr. McGinnis, Chief of our building department.
It's gonna be mad, I forgot.
Floodplain manager, and every single title thereafter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim McGinnis, you know the rest.
Nah.
My comment says to 9132 Dickens Avenue is the new 8th version of the 23 Florida Building Codes become effective January 1st. All building permit applications accepted. I want to highlight the word accepted, not just filed, but actually accepted as complete and received by the building department, will be built into that 2023 FBC. This was a really excellent and very informative submittal, and I have no further comments at this time. My compliments to the applicants and designers. Well done.
The chef, yes. Okay, applicant, come on down. Name and address for the record.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Boutros Bunara. I'm the architect on this project for 9132 Dickens. Thank you for your time. 21 Northeast 22nd Street, Miami. So I want to take you through a quick presentation just to kind of highlight a few things about the project, which I want to talk a little bit about the project location, the existing conditions, our project concept, and then the result. So starting with the project location, of course, we know the town of Surfside, but I wanted to focus a little bit more on the residential neighborhood and more precisely the non-waterfront lot neighborhood, So in this highlighted area, as you can see, there's some developments of 2 stories, either completed and in process. And as you can see, that counts for about 15%. So with that being said, we really wanted to focus on the rest of that 85%, right? So even though there is progress and there is development, we want to make sure that, you know, this existing 1-story in character neighborhood is addressed. So as you can see here on Dickens, the street only has 2 developments that are 2 stories. So in general, it is a 1-story character street, so that was very important to us on how we address that. So the existing conditions to the left is the south neighbor, and to the north you have both one-story structures. And the existing structure that's on our property is about 1,400 square feet roughly. We took a look at that and determined with the client that it is not feasible to renovate this property, so we had to go with the demolition and new construction. So kind of going into the project concept, looking at the buildable height, what we're allowed to do in relation to the two neighbors, there's a couple things that was very important to us. One, the FEMA finished floor elevation requirement, having to lift that to that 1 story, to that 9 feet NGVD, and what that 1-story datum looks like, right? So going forward, starting with the main mass, we figured that let's take that front and start to slowly carve away at that. And what we want to do is slowly start to extract and take away and step the building back so you don't perceive the building as super high. And that's what that would look like. And as you can see in a different perspective, the more you start to step back, what stands out is these two volumes, these two lower volumes that are more in character with the neighborhood. So that was kind of like our main thing that we wanted to focus on. And then you have a result there. Going forward, these volumes are cladded in different materials, right? So what that does is it allows your eye to focus on those volumes as an individual volume and not just one big mass if you step back. So, and that carries forward not only to the front of the house, but in the back as well. And some of these materials, it's a vertical rib stucco, travertine, engineered wood, smooth stucco, and aluminum. And another thing that, in addition to the massing and the volume, what's happening and what we're seeing with some of the newer developments is with that FEMA height requirement, there's a big slope that you're sloping up to the garage, you're sloping up to your front entry, and that's something that we wanted to avoid. And by doing that, we kept the grade at the same level with a very minimal incline and recessed the entry as far back as we could to allow steps to gradually reach up to that FEMA height requirement. And what that does is visually, as you're walking on the street, it keeps that grade level with the neighbors. In addition to that, I just want to highlight a couple things. We are 1 foot 1 inch below the maximum height, just to kind of not be so aggressive. 2, the roof eaves, we are well under, actually half of what's allotted. And what that does is the tighter the roof eaves, from that person's perspective, it doesn't seem as large and spanning out. So we wanted to kind of keep it tight. As Judith mentioned in her report, that there's significant landscape, which will tie into the neighborhood. No proposed roof decks. And not only just addressing the front, but we wanted to be a little bit courteous to the neighbors in terms of privacy. So we're going an additional 4 feet, 8.5 inches of a setback on the first story, and then 8 feet, 8.5 inches on the second, just to maintain that privacy. So with that, we kindly ask your approval for this project. Thank you.
Have you done a house before in Surfside?
We've done a couple, yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I don't remember which ones you've done, but your presentation of the package that you submitted, I thought, was a very detailed, well thought out plan. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Oh, I did, I'm sorry.
Appreciate that.
But I need to open this up for public comment if anybody would like to get up and make a public comment on, not at all. Okay, I'm gonna close it right up, give it to the board for comments or questions.
Thank you. I just have one question. It's a beautiful design.
Thank you.
And I like the combination of different materials, right? And how you paid attention to what this code is asking for developments in town. It's organic, and my only question pertains to the pool area, right? And this comes from a GC point of view, right? at what point in time that permit is gonna be pulled?
At what,
Because the pull permit is not part of this application, right? So at what point in time that's gonna be pulled?
I could answer to that.
Sure.
So, yeah, the way we like to design the structure is in combination with the pool, because what happens is if you build the structure first, the pool is impossible to, it's not impossible, but very difficult to be constructed. So even though it is a separate permit, we like to submit them together, so the shell and the piling and everything for the pool is together.
Cohesive.
It's just
Right.
easier, yeah.
Okay. That was my only question.
Yes.
Where were you planning on using the engineered wood?
So in the front, I mean, it's shown on the elevation, but if it's definitely in this volume,
That's like a Trex product, is that right?
it is not Trex. It is
Well, not
actually-
Trex, but it's similar type.
It's actually very different. It's a really cool product. It's called Resista, and it's made from grinding rice husks in combination with resin. So it's an impermeable material. It's incredible, and it's almost just as good as wood. Never
And
as good. but
using
it's-
something like, the reason I ask is that Trex usually in 10 years looks really, really bad.
No, it's like
So,
Resista is incredible.
Have
yeah.
you considered using something like natural, South American hardwood or something like that, Ipe or teak or kumara or whatever, where it's, if it goes unattended for a long period of time, it's not going to be a eyesore to the neighbors? That's the only question I would have.
I'm always open to using natural wood, but it's just very hard, especially if it's like exposed to the elements. It does stain over time. It does go bad. Even the Ipe stuff.
Those, Ipe lasts 100 years outside. It'll turn gray if they don't do anything, and as soon as they oil it, it goes back to its natural color.
Yeah, maintenance on anything natural is maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hurt for sure.
Beautiful design, beautiful cladding. I like the materials, the textures, and relatively sensitive to the neighbors, which I appreciate. My only thought about where I'm not sure we're quite there with the design guidelines is on the main entrance, which needs to be prominent according to our design guidelines, and the way we've got it sort of recessed between two large volumes. When you look at page 26 of our packet, the rendering, not 26, right? A19, when you just shift over a little bit, the view, you're already, I don't know if you can get that page up.
It's like 3 elevations.
That's one, so that's one. So, you shift a little to the left and you lose half the main entrance. You shift a little to the right and you lose half the main entrance. I'm wondering if there's something you can do there to bring that forward. I mean, not physically forward, but conceptually forward. Can we do something on those front masses a little bit to sort of maybe do a flat angle on those corners instead of a sharp corner to just give it something, or some maybe like a flat element that comes out and covers that entryway and sort of stretches out beyond or around those masses. Something that pulls that entry to be more prominent. Because as designed, I just don't think it is prominent.
Interesting. You guys. I have a comment on that. So, the way that we see it is an entrance, like an architectural entrance, should naturally draw you in, right? And like for me, my interpretation of that is these two masses, one is a little bit higher, one is a little bit lower, and then you have the hovering one on top. And to me, it's more of like sucking and bringing you into the entrance. It's pulling you in, and I think instead of just having like one main entrance sticking out, I think these 3 volumes acts as pulling you in towards this project, which, our client, when we designed it, they were really happy with the outcome of that.
I think the design guidelines, which are hopefully going to be revamped and available sooner than later. I happen to agree with the fact that you've created a drama into the front. I like if I picked what I liked best, I liked the back. I think it's the most interesting part of the house for me. But I think respectfully, you touched on many things about what someone may or may not think about, like being sensitive to the neighborhood, trying to reach a little deeper to make people a little happier about what you've done with this modern or contemporary design. And I actually prefer that the entrance be set back and give it a little more privacy and a little more drama. Your interpretation is what you see. It's like looking at a piece of art. What do you see? I mean, for me, I see something that's a little more dramatic and a little more private. And what you see is your sense that someone's going to want to be drawn to walk in and get pulled in. Then I think you accomplish that. And in the matters of taste, there's no discerning there. I think you did a good job. I think it was well done, well thought out. Anybody interested in making a motion?
I will make a motion to approve with town planner and manager's conditions.
And I'll second the motion.
Bingo. Did we lose the clerk? Okay, someone call roll. Running around the mountain, here she comes.
Who made the motion?
Motion was Mr.
David and Mr. Forbes and Mr. Bravo second.
Board Member Bravo.
Yes.
Board Member Edery.
Yes.
Board Member Lecour.
No.
Vice Chair Forbes.
Yes.
Chair Baumel.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you guys so much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate
It's
it.
gonna be a beautiful house. Great presentation, by the way.
Thank you.
Madam Town Planner, 4C.
Mr. Keller is going to present the next item. I'm just pulling it up on the computer.
Oh, I knew who this was right away.
I'll just pull it up.
This is, I looked at this one, this looks like Cesar Molino.
Good evening again. Walter Keller, consultant planner. This is an application to construct a new two-story single-family home with an understory. The subject property is located at 9156 Emerson Avenue in the H30B zoning district. Typical inside lot, interior lot with 5,625 square feet. The exterior facade of the home is proposed to have several wall treatments, including composite wood, white, concrete, and black stucco, glass railings, pivoting solid oak door with a wood finish. Project includes concrete driveway, a raised pool and deck, and a covered summer kitchen. The first floor lot coverage is 2,275 square feet with a second floor of 1,564 square feet. However, the maximum allowable first area floor area is really 2,250 feet. The second floor area, if consistent with the proper size, is consistent with the town code. The understory space is comprised of 213 square foot lobby, an elevator, stairs, and a laundry room. The laundry room is below the base flood elevation and needs to be removed per the town building official. The paved portion of the understory provides space for 6 cars, a golf cart, and a motorcycle. The pervious portion of the understory totals 444 square feet, which is less than the 20% of pervious area which is required for the understory. The understory needs to actually be a minimum of 1,125 square feet to meet the code requirement. The building height, when measured from the crown of the road, which is at 5.5 NGVD, to the top of the roof is 33.5 NGVD, which is 29 feet, which is consistent with the code, and then has a parapet wall of 1.5 feet, where 3 feet would be allowed. The pool deck is at 10.5 NGVD, but it's not clear how the adjacent area on the side yard and rear yard will drain with the pool deck being so high. Additionally, the bottom of the understory is proposed at 1.5 NGVD. The concern on this is the ground level is somewhere between 4.6 and 5. The understory may have a problem draining. The driveway does not indicate what type of driveway is being proposed. The Florida Building Code also requires a fence around the pool, but there are no details provided. The landscape plan indicates an appropriate amount of trees and palms are proposed, which will meet the single-family and Florida-friendly landscape requirements. Tree plantings in the street right-of-way, however, should be moved close to the property line. Staff finds that this application generally meets the zoning code. The Planning and Zoning Board should determine whether the new home's design is consistent with and in conformance with the design guidelines as set forth in the town code. The general design for the property in this application appears to be well formulated in consideration to the zoning code. If the Planning and Zoning Board determines the design to be appropriate, staff recommends approval with the following comments. Per section 90-45, the first floor is limited to a lot coverage of 40%, so that the first floor square footage needs to be revised to be 2,250 square foot maximum. Per section 90-45.5B, the pervious area in the understory should be increased to provide a minimum of 1,125 square feet. Provide information on the type of driveway needs to be proposed or provided. Provide information on the intensity of the lighting in the second floor overhang. I'm a little concerned about what that lighting is going to do and how intense it's going to be, but there's no information about it. But if you look at the rendering, which of course is just a rendering, it sort of indicates that they're going to be sort of noticeable. Provide information on any any fencing for the pool area. Provide information on what grades are proposed around the pool deck in order to allow drainage to stay on the property. Provide information on how the understory at an elevation of 1.5 NGVD will drain. And finally, if any trees are relocated or removed, then they will need to get a tree permit. And that would be our recommendation for approval. Happy to answer any questions.
No, but thank you. I know, we gotta go. Mr. McGinnis and all the titles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jim McGinnis et al. My comments as to 9156 Emerson Avenue are as follows. Once again, my boilerplate advising the applicant if they apply and get accepted for a building permit after January 1st, 2024, it's going to be constructed under the 2023 Florida Building Code, which will be substantially different from our current code. Next, direct your attention respectively to sheet 2.01. And on that understory sheet, you're going to see a laundry room. No, can do. We need to amend that sheet to eliminate the laundry room. And you'll also see other enclosed areas down there too, mainly building entry. Now, areas below design flood, which is 8 + 2, 10 feet, shall be used per FEMA solely for storage, parking of vehicles, and building access. So that's why that laundry room has to go. Number 3, that on that same sheet, the other enclosed area, they've got to provide flood vents on that area at a ratio of 1 square inch of net open vent per 100 square feet of vented floor area. Each enclosed area shall have a minimum of 2 vents located on opposing walls. And finally, my final comment is amend that sheet A2.02 to rename that sheet as the first floor plan. And I'm going to request an elevation mark provided on the floor of what's named as the summer kitchen out back. Reason is, there has to be a differential in elevation between the main floor and that rear deck summer kitchen area. They need to provide that differential elevation to prevent torrential rainwaters from flowing into the house, main area of the house. It can be minimal, 2 to 4 inches, but there needs to be a differential between that 10-foot elevation mark shown on the main floor of the house and that summer kitchen. Those are the end of my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh,
So no, I just wanted to add, the applicant is here, the architect is here, and I also believe there's public comment for this
yes,
item.
we got one. We got one. Yeah, well, no, we have to hear from the,
Oh, I'm sorry. Public first.
we have to hear from the applicant first.
Yeah, I'm here.
The applicant?
You guys are good. I love this place already. Just saying.
Not you.
Okay.
Name and address, I'm sorry, name and address for the
Valmir
record.
Cunha. I know it's a strange name, but Brazilian Portuguese, so
Oh,
C-U-N-H-A.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a combination.
Pardon me, can you restate your name, just so the clerk can get it?
It's Valmir, W-A-L-M-I-R, Cunha,
Yeah.
W-A-L-M-I-R, Cunha, C-U-N-H-A. Okay, well, anyway, my idea with this new house here is to, knowing that we have all this water problem in Miami already, I thought, well, why not use the elevation that's already going up and make useful to park cars or something, because it's gonna be open, but we say underground, but I don't think it's really underground. It's all open. It's just lower level. So that's the idea. And the code say that we can have something like 233 square foot underground, something like that. So that's why we try to put a laundry there, which can be removed. There's no problem. But because of the height going to the level of the house, we decided to put elevator so we can have the garage or whatever we call it, the underground being attended by the elevator. And the elevator have a sensor in case it goes down, the home's gonna be the second floor. So it goes down, comes up automatically. The pool in the back is gonna be raised, so we don't have to step down all the steps to go into the ground floor. So we're gonna make the pool the same level of the house. And his comments are like that. We can make a little step in the summer kitchen, you know, just to get those. It's not a problem there. But the light is I love those. Hey, I'm Brazilian.
Okay, there had to be an origin on that one.
I like of course we can, it's low voltage. It's a strip light which we can, you know, it's gonna be a permanent light for Christmas or whatever somebody wants to use different colors. It's gonna be there, you know, just to give a little character to the house. Landscaping is not here, but we have it already. It was not time to put it in, but we can provide that. Okay, so.
Yeah, we do have it included.
Oh, you have it? Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
I'm sorry, are you the owner or the architect?
No, I'm the owner, the investor and builder. I'm the contractor also. I'm the guy who's gonna actually build. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Yeah, you see.
The architect.
Yeah, but I'm the designer. Yeah, he's the designer. He don't like to speak that much, so that's why I'm here.
Oh.
We're enjoying this.
You're fun.
Well,
You're fun.
But anyway, but you see, the idea of this is one level with the pool, and drainage. I know it's going to be very tricky because we have a little space there. But remember, it's not that much that's going to go drain in there because we have the setbacks. It's a little bit. You know, if you look at the Judith, let me see if I can find. Oops, I messed up.
You want to zoom in?
Yeah, no, I wanted to see the elevation on the side.
Like this? This side?
Yeah. You see, okay. One more. The picture itself.
You want the rendering?
Yeah.
That's at the beginning.
There it is.
Like this?
Okay.
So that shows
Yeah.
the side?
You see right on the sides there how small it is. I mean, compared to the rest of the whole mass of the building.
Mr. Cunha, can you speak into the mic, please?
Oh. So
It's
you see
very
on the,
expressive.
yeah. I mean, I like to move my arms. But you see on the sides, because of the setbacks, there's not much space there. So the water collection is going to be minimal. Because look how the roof line is. So whatever the setback is, the draining, I can accommodate the drain coming to the front of the house. I mean, we can have French drains on the side of, I mean, I can make that work on that way. And if you guys concerned about the water because
So
of
the
elevation-
architect doesn't want to get up here and support you with your very exciting ideas.
Yeah, but he agrees with me.
He's got a very pleasant smile as well, but I'm kind of anticipating
But
maybe
I-
some questions for him.
But I have some, on my sleeve that if you guys think that's complicated to have that underground garage, I wanted to use a passive gate on the entrance. If you look at where the garage is, I mean,
Okay.
because
I think we get it. We get your enthusiasm and your way you want to go, and I think we're gonna move this right along, my friend.
Okay.
Okay.
No, the thing is because we gotta use that space. It's a
Thank you.
waste
Yeah.
not to use it because we're already there. I mean, and we
You've done it.
maintain
You've done it.
Okay,
Thank you.
good,
We're going to open this up for
Okay.
public comment because we got one, and I
And all the comments that we did from the engineer, I make sure I'll come back with
100%.
that resolved.
Alino Roberto, I'm so sorry if I said it wrong.
Oh, no.
Oh,
You said it correctly. Good
name
evening.
and address, please.
Yes, 9273 Abbott Avenue, but we're talking about the property in 9164.
Can I please have your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Alina Roberto and Alita Rivera for 9273 Abbott Avenue.
You have the floor.
Thank
2
you.
minutes. Get it?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for submitting the landscape. That was one of the biggest concerns. We've already met with the developer. We're really excited to hear that. Well, just now, we're really excited to hear that he's open to the discussion of some of the concerns. My mother and I are here representing the owner of the property for 9164 Emerson Avenue. And he was informed that there's going to be this development happening right next door, and he raised some concerns around the structure. It's a beautiful design, but it is going to be elevated, and it's going to be obstructing views and multiple concerns. So we're here representing him just to ask what the process, and this might not be the best platform, but the process to further amend and make sure that everyone is in agreement moving forward, whether that's a petition to slow down, the development of this property so that we can come to an agreement on what's going to happen here. Some of the concerns were mentioned, so.
Well, I think if you're asking questions, is there any other questions you want to know about that, or?
Well, there was concerns, and so the question really is what is the process to make sure there's either a delay so we can come to an agreement on what's going to happen here, or a petition?
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and let this get answered by our man of many,
And
man of
excuse
many
me,
titles.
if this
Okay.
isn't the right platform, it's just what was
Tony?
available to us.
Oh, well,
Let me ask you. That's the man of
I'm
many-
taking it back.
I only
Taking
have-
it back.
I
I'm
only
gonna
have
let
one title.
Tony.
I only
Okay.
have one title, so, no, it's, just to clarify through Madam Chair, this is the opportunity to make your concerns known.
Okay.
This board is making a decision.
Mhm.
They can make a decision tonight.
Yeah.
So if you have concerns, now's the time to
Yeah,
to state them.
concerns for the property include the drainage that were mentioned earlier.
Right.
It's going to be an elevated property, which means that
Yes.
the other properties would be below. Obviously, drainage
Right.
is a concern. Obstructions, lighting was brought up as well, and just the impact on the neighborhood as well. And lastly, we did speak about it briefly, but the landscape. There's large pine trees there, and the removal of that and how it's going to impact the neighbors.
Okay, and then.
Those are just some of the
thank you.
concerns.
Okay, great, but I think what you did was very important. It's what should be done, is to talk to the people that own the property or
Yes.
the architects and be on.
We want to be agreeable.
Yeah,
We just
you
want
wanna
to make
do
sure
the
to work
best.
together and come to an
Yes.
agreement, right?
That's what I'm saying. Communications are much better when they are direct it to the person you want to communicate with, as opposed to going through a third party, and then the communication just goes all over the place.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if that's it, if Judith, you, yeah, I was gonna say either you or our head floodplain manager and
So,
head building.
Right, I'm gonna turn some of this over to Mr. McGinnis.
Oh, okay.
One is the construction sites ordinance, which governs how the construction has to be handled. They have to have proper construction fencing. The materials have to stay to the best of their ability on site to prevent dust from coming onto neighboring properties. Obviously, it's Surfside, the lots are small and tight, so, you know, they've got to take the best measures that they're able to. And Mr. McGinnis can tell you more about that. I tell people, if you see something happening, if the homeowner is concerned about what's happening during the construction phase, the best people to call is to the town, so we can make sure that everything is happening in compliance. There's specific building hours, so they can't build on Saturday mornings, they can't build in the evenings, things that cause noise. In terms of drainage, though, it is one of the things we identified. Because the understory is below the crown of road, what we don't want to happen there is for that to pool like a bathtub. But we're gonna have to work that out with the building official. They're gonna have to show us what they propose for drainage. There's something called like a French drain, which they would build underneath that. It is a possibility, but that's gonna have to be worked out with the building official. In terms of drainage to the neighbors, I spoke with the applicant initially and recommended this option with the understory because it is better for the neighbors in terms of drainage. There's more space for the water to flow. 20% of the lot, so 20% of 5625 square feet has to be underneath the house to be permeable so that rainwater can flow through. They have a couple options for materials to do that with. They could put in a synthetic turf there with layers underneath that will provide drainage. They could do it with wood decking that has slats in it so that the rainwater can go through underneath it. They're not showing that now. I don't think it's a problem for them to get there, but it's not there on the plans.
And that's really what it comes down to. It seems like there's
I-
some design elements that aren't.
Can we ask possibly for you to know all the specifics, to maybe set up a meeting?
Absolutely.
Go to the town and let us mill through what's being presented as far as the property. I think you'll have better direct answers and we can move on and not make people.
That's exactly, it's almost 9:30.
Yeah, okay. Sorry,
No.
my apologies.
That's actually
But
it.
I think it'll be easy for you to sit down with Judith or with the head building official, and he'll answer everything.
And that is actually exactly what we're
great.
looking for. We want to be agreeable. We just want to make sure some of these things are addressed and what the
You got
platform
it.
is for that.
You got it.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
The only thing I would add is that
Wonderful.
the decision about lighting is under the purview of the planning and zoning board, so they can make a decision about that.
Yeah, yeah, okay. We're gonna, I don't think there's anything else. I don't think there's anybody else in the public, so here we go. We're closing it up. It goes to the board. Anybody with comments, because I have a few, I'm sure they're probably gonna be similar to the rest, so go, somebody.
I have just a couple comments. I think that the design is ambitious, beautiful. I'm the owner of an understory home, so, you know, I can share with you, please get a civil engineer and figure the drainage out. Right now, the way it's designed, you're gonna grab all the water from the street and it's gonna pool in your carport. So you absolutely wanna figure that out, or you're gonna have a real mess on your hands. And then the only other comment I have is the underlighting on the upper, I think that's gonna be tough on the neighbors. I think that's light pollution into the neighboring. So if you can figure out a way to do that, that's not gonna be so perceptible from the street and your neighbors, I think that's fine. Otherwise, I think we need to revisit that.
Go on.
Wow, we had the exact same comments.
We all had the same comment. Okay. That's,
Well, we did like the presentation, we like.
The presentation
Yeah, we like
killed
what
it.
you, yeah, you
Killed
killed it. It's great for the neighborhood. You just gotta work on these two things, especially the water. That would be a nightmare for your clients, nightmare. And then he'll be all over you, and you don't want that.
I don't.
Trust me.
I don't agree with the lights on the second floor. I can. I just don't think anything protruding around the top of a house that's 2 flights up. It's not a commercial building. It's not a holiday. It's, you know, like, it's like, when I first saw it, I was like, you know, it's like when people leave their Christmas or their Hanukkah lights up too long all year round. That's kind of what I thought. And it's not an unhappy thought, okay? It's cheerful. I just don't think that it belongs in a residential section. I think you're gonna get a lot of complaints. If I understand, you might have invested and built some other houses in the neighborhood, and this might be a new look, a new prototype for you. It's super interesting. It's super ambitious, like what was said. I agree with all this. You gotta do the drainage, obviously, but I don't think that the lights should be on the second floor. I think they belong on the grounds or the entrance, you know, like lighting on the stairs so people don't trip and fall on their face, you know, that's. Yeah, an unidentified sitting house, yeah.
Can I make a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll second the motion.
I move to approve. I move to approve with staff conditions and the additional condition that the lighting and the second floor be removed.
Oh.
I second.
What do you mean I'll second?
You can't go before she's done.
Third.
Board Member Bravo?
Yes.
Board Member Lecour?
Yes.
Board Member Ederai?
Yes.
Vice Chair Forbes?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Baumel?
Yes.
Motion carries.
He said it. Well, no, I mean.
Now, I'm sorry you guys have been sitting here since 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, except you're my new neighbor, so we get this. This is an important one. Save the best for last.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Okay.
I love it. It's Caesar
Chair,
Marino.
Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Last one, come on.
Hit it.
Focus.
Okay.
Vale. Dale.
I'm not sure, this is 4D at this point. This is an application to demolish two one-story single-family houses and construct a new 2-story single-family house on 2 waterfront lots in the H30A zoning district. The owner is presently pursuing a unity of title to aggregate the 2 lots. The proposed new home includes 2 separate attached 2-car garages, a recessed covered entry, interior open courtyard, roof deck, outdoor kitchen, rear covered terrace, pool, and accessory cabana, along with various architectural enhancements proposed for the home. Featuring significant amount of Kumaro wood. Kumaru wood. It's a very elegant material, and I now know how to pronounce it. The front facade has limited windows on the first floor level, and it's not clear whether the 10% wall openings minimum is met there. This is, with the unity of title, this is a very large lot. It is 125 feet wide on 88th Street. The site plan indicates the total lot size is 25,000 square feet. The proposed total area for the home for both floors is over 17,000 square feet. It complies with the zoning code in terms of lot coverage is about 39% for the first floor, and 77%, the second floor is 77% of the first floor. Again, as I made comment previously, the maximum lot coverage is 40%, plus the exterior covered and uncovered terraces cannot exceed 6% of the total lot area. A rough look at the plan seems to think that they can accommodate that, and it shouldn't be a problem, but the calculation has to be provided at time of permitting. There is a fire pit in the southeast corner, and that needs to be at least 15 feet from the rear property line if it is a permanent structure. If it's a movable fire pit that they bring inside when a hurricane is coming, that is allowed, but a permanent structure in that setback area is not permitted. For the second floor area, so one of the things I talked to these architects about specifically, we had a couple conversations, is the new, that went to first reading that you heard about tonight with the average setbacks across the first and second floor. And they've taken that into consideration here. They have not provided exact calculations for the average setback for the second floor, as is what is stated in the code. I believe that they have the appropriate setbacks based on the floor area coverage for the second floor and the significant open spaces they have there. It just needs to provide that calculation at the time of permitting. And I mentioned that in the staff report that's going to second reading in September, and that they've heard that you all have now recommended approval of that. There's a roof deck on the home. The setback is greater than 10 feet from all sides, with a spiral stairway used to access the roof. I'm going to go through the conditions I have quickly. Application is found to generally comply with the zoning code. Planning and Zoning Board should determine whether the new home's design is consistent with and in conformance with the design guidelines set forth in the town code. If the design is determined to be in conformance, staff recommends approval with the following conditions. Unity of title has to be achieved, which should not be an issue. What I said previously about the sum total of the exterior and interior spaces cannot exceed 46%. All elevations, 90-50.1 says all elevations for new structures shall provide for a minimum of 10% wall openings. The architects are here and they can explain their vision for the front of the home, but it was not clear to me that that was being met. Screening for the rooftop mechanical equipment must be provided along with a line of sight diagram demonstrating that it's not visible from eye level view from grade at a distance of 75 feet from any property line. Permanent structure may be no closer than 20 feet from the rear property line. The pool and the pool deck are set well back, but it's the fire pit and the decking there which needs further clarity. The front yard and rear yard calculations, it's just a technical detail. The front yard is only the first 20 feet. In the calculations they provided, the house is actually set back 25 feet, so they provided all of that space into the calculation. So I'm going to ask them to redo that for permitting. And the purpose of that, by the way, is to just include that first 20 feet is to make sure we get the right landscaping closer to the street. I would like them to revise the second floor setback calculations as well for clarity. 90-74, ordinary projection of sills. I didn't see a measurement for the eaves. If they extend into the required yard, the maximum is 24 inches. And again, a tree removed or relocated requires a removal permit from Miami-Dade County. The applicant is here. Do you have any questions?
Okay. Mr. McGinnis, yes? Please, bring your titles.
Bring the titles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My comments as to 9040 and 9032 80th Street are as follows. My comment number one is a standard boilerplate warning of the 2023 Building Code effective for all applications filed on or after January 1st, 2024. Next, I'd like for the applicant to rename sheets 2.0, which he calls a ground floor plan. I want that renamed to a first floor plan because that's the first habitable floor and it's elevated to 10 feet. as well as sheet 3.0. He's showing that as a ground floor RCP. That stands for reflected ceiling plan. I want that renamed to first floor plan because that speaks to me as floodplain manager that that is going to be the first habitable floor, and it is correctly elevated to 10 feet per code. Next, you'll notice the garage there on that sheet 2.0 does not have flood vents. That will be required to be vented with net open area vents of 1 inch of net open vent area to 100 square feet of garage floor area vented. And we need 2 vents located on opposing walls where feasible. This has a tremendous water feature on it, if you notice, beautiful water feature. Water garden, it's called, as a matter of fact. And it's very important that these water features on this, and even a prior application we saw as the first one tonight, does not have a maximum achievable depth greater than 24 inches. Because if it does, we have to treat it like a swimming pool and protect it accordingly with alarms and all this other stuff. So that's a real important note for the Florida Residential Code that I want them to be aware of going forward. That's a maximum achievable depth. In other words, in no way can 24 inches of water be contained within that water garden. And that is the end of my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Applicants, architects. I see the architect. If you would like to speak, the room has lost some of its fill.
We'll make this very quick. Cesar Molina of CMA Design Studio. We have no objections to the comments that they made as far as making some of the corrections to the fire pit, and the water feature will be at 18 inches in depth, like typical of some of our waterscapes and gardenscapes. We will meet all the requirements that you have and all the calculations. I think we'll have to revise the front green area. We interpret that as a full frontage. So I think we'll meet all those requirements. The house is a very tropical, modern, vernacular, Florida-style architecture. A lot of warm materials, woods and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a really beautiful project for the neighborhood and stuff like that. So we just want your approval and.
Boom.
Let's go. Boom. Let's go. They're anxious to go. They're anxious to get going. So they're a growing family. So that's about it. I'll let you guys go and if you have any questions.
I'm gonna take a leap of faith here and close for public comment and bring it to the board back here. I mean, go ahead, I'll go last.
Looking at me?
Yep. Lindsay?
Say you got stuff. Okay. I mean, beautiful materials, beautiful texture, beautiful articulation, beautiful landscaping. Here's my beef. I also think this falls into that same concept of doesn't have the prominent main entry. I feel like it's sort of sandwiched between 2 large volumes, and I also think the 2 large garage volumes overpower the main entry. So we see more vehicular entry than we see pedestrian entry, and that's why I don't think it quite adheres to our design guidelines.
My response to that is that the garages will be cladded in a wood element, so it'll be a natural-looking garage. The other thing is to make the house look a little bit more understated. So it's not like your typical mansions that you see in the neighborhood. This is something more like processional. The entry gate is pretty prominent. It's 12 feet wide, the gate itself. So the idea is to see something that's a little bit understated, a little bit more mysterious of how you approach a house, versus seeing a big McMansion. So the idea was to create more of a processional experience, so that as you go through that gate, you get that wow effect is when you come into that garden scape where you get that relief, that expansion and contraction of volume, versus just look at me, look how big a house I am, look at how big of a front door I am. It's more about understated elegance at this point.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. The treatment of the garage doors, is there a way to blend that better with the facade?
we could put it with glass in the same brise-a-lait, so you could fenestrate it like with those sash doors. I don't know if you've seen those like pivot doors. So it could be glass, and we could treat it with the same elements as these louvers. So it'll be a little bit more transparent. That was one of the comments. I do believe we meet the 10% on the front elevation. I mean, there's a lot of expansion and contraction as far as materials and the water feature. And the idea is to really create more of a privacy and an understated approach to how you see a house on the street.
And I think that reset, the other one that I spoke on, I thought the volume was off, but this one, I think the recess it works. I would love to see you try to, de-emphasize the 2 garages to the extent
We could do it with, I mean, it's gonna cost the client a little bit more by
They
doing
can't
the,
think of anything
the glass.
they'd rather do.
But, we could definitely like warm it up with glass and the brise-lays and, that's aesthetically we can handle that. That's not a problem.
Who else? Did you want to say something?
No. I agree with the comments. I think it's a beautiful house. It's a beautiful design, very smart, very organic, very, into what we want to see in town. It's no secret that I hate fences, but other than that.
Oh, we know you love them.
Yeah.
Okay.
You put a wall up.
Use the money
I actually think
the fence money, use it in the.
for this house.
Okay, hit it.
So, I think it's great. I love it. I would not change a thing. I would absolutely not, under any circumstances, change those garage doors. You are my new neighbor. I'm excited to have you there. Get started, because I don't want to listen to the construction for 3 years. I think it's a great thing for our street. I think it's great for the neighborhood. And I hope you have a few kids, as I have some that are running around, and we got some kids to play with, and I wish you guys all the best, and I think the house. Okay, now that I can't help you with. But it's great, and I wish you guys nothing but the best. I think it's beautiful.
Mr.
No more than 24 inches.
Mr.
For the water.
Rolito, I love your work. I met you umpteen years ago. Every time I see your work, I already know you've done it before I turn and say, I know whose work it is. I will say that as far as the not revised design guidelines, that I don't like the prominence of a door. I'm kind of the opposite, because I drive around the neighborhood and I call the neighborhood closed eyes. That's what I drive around and see. My interpretation of closed eyes is as you drive around town and you see these pronounced doors and windows, all the shades are always drawn. I refer to that as the closed eyes of town. And so I like the drama or the mystery of having that front entrance set away. You did another house on Vizcaya that I fainted for when I came through. And I mean, obviously, so did you. I would change nothing except, whatever their conditions were. I think it's, no matter what you're doing, it's an improvement to what was there. And you're making everybody happy because they don't realize that their own property values are becoming greater assets as a result of everything that does come through here. So, I love your work.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Do it quickly for the neighbor.
Motion.
I'm not the builder.
We know that.
On that note, I will
There you go.
have a motion to approve this
There we go.
with stipulations from our town planners and floodplain manager and everything else under his titles.
You got it.
And
It's got a gate. This is
Okay,
great.
and I'll second the motion. Regarding the gate.
Board Member Bravo?
Yes.
Board Member Ederai?
Yes.
Board Member Lecour?
Yes.
Vice Chair Forbes?
yes, ma'am.
Chair Baumel?
Yes, 2 for 2.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Motion for adjourn.
No.
Meeting date.
I need to go to my stuff.
Right.
Quick one.
You can go home.
Quick one, though. Judy. Judith, quick one.
I need to go to my stuff.
Yeah, I know, you're screwed.
Thank you, good luck.
Okay, so our next
What do we have to do?
Our next meeting is September 28th.
That sounds,
But Jonathan.
Hey, can we,
I
can-
need-
can
I
we
need
get
you
a
guys
moment?
to
Just a
listen.
moment, it was one more question.
yes.
Yes.
Question.
Okay, October 26th, we
Yeah.
cannot have a meeting because they are refurbishing the entire commission chambers. Therefore,
We can have it at the Four Seasons.
I go for that.
With everybody, with photos.
Yeah.
There goes Fred, Fred's out.
So we could either have it November 16th and combine November, because our original meeting in November is the 30th.
I mean,
Don't we usually combine
There's no
November and
meeting
December?
October.
No, November and December.
she wants to combine
But when is the
October and November together.
Then what do we do for December?
Combine it in January?
You could combine it in January.
There you go. Do.
You want to do that?
I like that idea.
So what is it? What is it?
So October, November would be combined,
And then
In when?
December and January
and then
combined.
December and January would be in January.
But, so are you guys okay when, you guys want November 16th or November 30th?
November 16th.
Hold on.
I don't know.
30th, we already have the meeting scheduled,
Right.
so that's
So
better.
just leave it
Oh, we do?
as,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's our regular meeting is the 30th.
Okay, then.
So we don't
yeah.
have this December 16th meeting?
no.
We will change December to hold it on January, the end of January.
So the next one is November. Okay, November 3rd.
No, September 28th.
For what? September is good. September, we stay the same, okay?
And then
Yeah.
December moves.
Nobody will be here. I promise you that. It'll be a very quiet meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I'm ready. Lindsay. It was a good meeting.